Faites l'appel, s'il vous plaît, Madame le greffier.
Monsieur le sénateur Gorst. Monsieur le sénateur Farnham. Madame le sénateur Ferguson.
Présente.
Monsieur le sénateur Lefondre.
Présent.
Madame le sénateur Valois.
Présente.
Madame le sénateur Moore.
Présente.
Monsieur le sénateur Pallett. Monsieur le sénateur Mezek.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier. Madame le connétable de Saint-Laurent.
Présente.
Madame le connétable de Saint-Sauveur.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Brelard.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Grouville.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre. Monsieur le connétable de Sainte-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Ouen. Madame le connétable de Saint-Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Clément.
Présent.
Madame le député Martin.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Southern. Madame le député de Grouville. Monsieur le député Lewis.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Tadier. Monsieur le député Higgins.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Masson. Madame le député Pinel.
Présente.
Monsieur le député de Saint-Martin. Monsieur le député de Saint-Ouen.
Présent.
Madame le député Dublé. Monsieur le député Labbé. Monsieur le député Wickenden.
Présent.
Monsieur le député de Saint-Marie.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Truscott.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Young. Monsieur le député Ash.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Morel.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Guida. Monsieur le député de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le député de la Trinité.
Présent.
Monsieur le député de Saint-Jean.
Présent.
Madame le député Lehegara.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Ayer.
Présent.
Madame le député Pershaw.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Ward.
Présent.
Madame le député Alves.
Présente.
Monsieur le député Pamplin.
Présent.
Madame le député Gardner.
Présente.
Madame le greffier.
Prions Dieu. Notre aide soit au nom de Dieu qui a fait le ciel et la terre. Amen. Seigneur Dieu, Père éternel et tout-puissant, qui a établi les gouvernements et les puissances de la terre, pour le règlement et pour la conduite du peuple, et qui nous a commandé d'avoir toujours pour but la gloire de ton Saint-Nom, nous te prions qu'il te plaise de donner à cette assemblée le don de conseil et de prudence, d'unir le cœur et les affections de tous ceux qui la composent, et de les conduire tellement toi-même par ton Saint-Esprit que toute la délibération étant accompagnée de ta bénédiction, réussisse au bien et au soulagement du peuple, qui te plut de commettre à le soin. Car nous t'en prions au nom et par le mérite de ton Fils bien-aimé Jésus-Christ, notre Seigneur, qui nous a enseigné de t'invoquer en disant, Notre Père, qui est aux cieux, ton nom soit sanctifié, ton règne vienne, ta volonté soit faite en la terre comme au ciel. Donne-nous aujourd'hui notre pain quotidien, et nous pardonne nos offenses, comme nous pardonnons à ceux qui nous ont offensés. Et ne nous induis point en tentation, mais délivre-nous du mal, car à toi la reine, la puissance et la gloire, au siècle des siècles. Amen. Monsieur le sénateur Gorst.
Excusez.
Monsieur le sénateur Farnham.
Excusez.
Monsieur le sénateur Pallett.
Présent.
Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Hélier. Monsieur le connétable de Saint-Pierre.
Présent.
Monsieur le député Southern. Madame le député de Grouville.
Malade.
Vous jurez que Madame la députée de Bruville est tellement indisposée qu'elle ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Monsieur le député Tadier,
Defo.
Monsieur le député Masson,
Malade.
vous jurez que Monsieur le député Masson est tellement indisposé qu'il ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Madame la députée Dublé, vous jurez que Madame la députée Dublé est tellement indisposée qu'elle ne peut pas assister aux États sans exposer sa santé. Monsieur le député Labbé,
Excusez. Les États sont constitués.
Sir, may I ask just why some members were excusé and some default?
Yes, it's a good question to ask. We've been proceeding on the footing that those who are listed as joining by link may have some technical difficulty in joining the meeting, and on that footing they have been marked as excusé. And that's the practice we've been adopting in relation to those who've indicated that they are joining by link.
Sir,
It's something we can revisit as a practice, but that's what we've been doing. Yes.
so I'm
Chantal.
a bit disturbed to having received an email from Deputy Labby not indicating technical difficulties, or it just seems to be he doesn't wish to come in. I don't think that's really in order. Thank you, sir.
Well, doubtless we'll hear from these members.
Sir, he's in the chat now, says he's present.
Yes.
I was having technical difficulties, sir.
There we are. So that rather proves the point. So, Deputy Levy, thank you for that. So we now resume the debate with the 47th Amendment lodged by Deputy Morel, and I invite the greffier to read the...
Sorry, sir, I don't know whether when's the right time to raise a point of order about this item. Could I do it now, please, sir?
Yes?
I'm sorry about another point of order, but it's not clear in the list of propositions, but I just wanted to check whether if this amendment succeeds, whether the 31st Amendment in my name would fall away. Thank you, sir.
Yes. Well, do you mind if I consider that in the course of the debate and give you a ruling?
Thank you,
then?
sir.
Thank you. I invite the greffier to read the amendment.
after the words the Draft Island Plan 2022 to 25, insert the words except that A. Proposal 25, St Helier Country Park should be deleted in its entirety. B. The following be removed from the areas identified and safeguarded for provision of open space in Policy CI6, provision and enhancement of open space. 2. Warwick Farm, La Grande Route de Saint-Jean, St Helier, with the remaining item renumbered accordingly. C. The Draft Island Plan 2022 to 25 should be further amended in such respects as may be necessary consequent upon the adoption of A and B. And D. The Draft Bridging Island Plan Proposals Map, Part A, Planning Zones, be amended to reflect the adoption of A and B.
Deputy Morel.
Thank you, sir. And, sir, I bring this amendment with an element of sadness. I do not want to bring an amendment which says, please don't go forward with the proposals to work up proposals for a country park in St Helier. But, sir, I felt I had no choice. And there are a number of reasons for that. Some of them are more general than others. One reason, sir, is a very general reason, that the island plan does not cater adequately for the economic needs of the island. And in doing so, I think it also represents and reflects another aspect of the island plan and government in general, and that is that government, too often, time and time again, and by this, when I say government, I mean its fullest sense, I mean the States Assembly as well, clearly does not understand the world of business. So the inclusion of the proposal to develop proposals for a country park have thrown one business in Jersey into a state of insecurity and a state of uncertainty. In fact, if this were to go ahead as well, this would mean a decline in the amount of employment land in Jersey, sir, and a decline in the amount of agricultural land in Jersey, sir, as a result of this proposition. The Minister, I'm sure, will say that, well, his proposal to draw up a proposal for a country park does not create a park, that it does not close down Warwick Farm. In fact, he will, I am sure, say that future proposals for a park can be timed to reflect the needs of the business that currently operates there. That business, sir, and can I just check, am I allowed to name that business, sir, just to ensure I don't breach any standards?
It's necessary for the purpose of the debate, then yes.
I believe so, yes, sir. That business, Jersey Hemp, is Jersey Hemp. Sadly, sir, it's not correct that proposals for a country park can be timed around the business. That in itself reflects a lack of understanding of the needs of businesses in this island. The inclusion of the park in the draft island plan, which was done without consultation with Jersey Hemp, the tenants of Warwick Farm, has already affected that business. It is already proving challenging to investors in that business. When they look at the proposals for the country park, they then have to question their investment, sir. And before I go on to tell you about Jersey Hemp, let me also point out that Warwick Farm was let to Jersey Hemp, I believe, in 2017, sir. And it was obviously the government of Jersey that chose to enter into that lease. Now, in that time, since then, Jersey Hemp has obviously had to deal with the fact that Warwick Farm could have been taken at any moment to become a hospital site. It seems to have overcome that hurdle, sir, only then to be thrown another hurdle related to the hospital, which was the inclusion of trying to find a new home for the Jersey Bowls Club, sir. And the hospital team chose Warwick Farm to place the Jersey Bowls Club. And that proved challenging to Jersey Hemp, but Jersey Hemp have worked around that, and they have come to an accommodation to enable the Bowls Club to be sited in the front field, the one along the road, sir, that we can all see as we drive up and down the road. As a result of that, though, the lease with Jersey Hemp has been broken by Jersey Property Holdings with a view to reframing the lease in a way that accommodates the Bowls Club. But of course, so in fact, if you look at the 31st Amendment, which theoretically may well be debated afterwards, there it talks about upon the expiry of the present lease in January 2023. The lease didn't expire in January 2023. The lease expired in 2026. A break clause enabled the lease to expire in January 2023, and that break clause was enacted in order to deal with the Bowls Club. It also, sir, now seems that that break clause has been enacted in order to see what happens with this country park. But let me tell you about Jersey Hemp, because I have a funny feeling many members don't know about it. So Jersey Hemp is an incredible business. It's a homegrown business. It's organic. It employs 12 islanders full-time. Jersey Hemp leads the British Isles in the development of new hemp strains and CBD products for cosmetics and foods. Jersey Hemp is not part of the medicinal cannabis sector. Jersey Hemp doesn't develop plants that include THC, which is used for medicinal cannabis. It is operating below that level with plants that create CBD and just hemp fiber for clothing, hemp fiber for foods, hemp fiber for building. Jersey Hemp has attracted inward investment and would have had more had it not been for the inclusion of this park in the island plan. Jersey Hemp, in so many ways, is the ideal Jersey business. It's bringing an ancient Jersey industry, hemp growing, back to life and into the 21st century. In doing so, it is diversifying our economy, is innovating through research and the creation of new products, and is bringing money to the island. It is championing the environment by operating as an organic farm, and it even has the potential to aid innovation in our own construction industry, as the founders were inspired to create Jersey Hemp originally in order to research and develop building materials with hemp, so-called hempcrete. That vision is still a guiding star, but their journey towards it is a long-term vision that means working through various stages to create a sustainable business to support research into materials such as hempcrete. Those materials will enable the island to reduce its reliance on materials such as the aggregate that comes from Lajigaland. Obviously, that in itself is another bone of contention in this island plan. Sir, who created this business? Was it a group of wealthy newcomers to the island? No, sir. This amazing business has become reality through the vision of 3 former Jersey firefighters. 3 people who embody the enterprising spirit that Jersey desperately needs to maintain. Warwick Farm is an agricultural site. It is being used as an organic farm in a business that helps support our existing agricultural sector because the hemp being grown is done so as a complement to our potato crops outside of the growing season. And in so doing, it not only supports our potato growers, but also creates the possibility of measurable carbon sequestration to aid our carbon reduction journey. Jersey Hemp is based in this community, sir. We have seen that by the way they have bent over backwards to accommodate the Bowls Club in order to enable the hospital project to continue. I think what is often misunderstood is that businesses need security. The government of Jersey made a decision in 2017 to lease Warwick Farm so those 3 former firefighters could set out on their journey in building a vision of a new business, a new thriving business in this island. That has taken sweat and tears, sir. But they have done it against all the odds. But that business is still growing. It is still developing. It still has a long way to go. But the uncertainty created here means it is incredibly difficult to take that business forward. Sir, this business is selling products to Selfridges in the UK. This business is developing new strains, new cultivars of hemp that are being, I believe, the first 2 are going to be the first 2 new cultivars of hemp certified in the UK. It is developing further strains. It is in a joint venture with a US company to develop new seeds for the development of new products. It's at the cutting edge. And what do? We, without consultation, without talking to that business, just go and throw in the island plan, by the way, we're going to use this area of land as a country park. It may well be that that is a lovely area of land to be a country park. But we cannot just do these things without talking to the people it affects, sir. I do question, myself, the need for a country park next to Valley des Vaux, which is a beautiful country area, naturally there already. But, sir, that is, in many ways, just an extra question I have. The real concern is the message this sends to Jersey businesses. We say diversify our economy. We say we want to support Jersey in developing its economy in different areas. We want to support agriculture in becoming organic. We want to support agriculture in diversifying its crops, in supporting the potato industry. We say all these things, and then in the island plan, we throw, without consultation, a plan for a country park that has just come and blindsided them, sir. We say we want people to build businesses to employ islanders. That's what this business does. It started with 3 former firefighters. It's now 12 full-time employees, and its journey is only one of growth. And, sir, that is why I bring this amendment. It is not because I don't want a country park. It's because I do want an economy that succeeds in employing islanders, in paying taxes through, I know we have a zero tax, in paying taxes through that employment to the island, in paying social security contributions, in putting Jersey at the forefront of research in an area that is growing worldwide. Those CBD oils are used in cosmetic products. Those CBD oils are used in foods. The hemp fibres are used in building materials and clothing. They have export markets. What do we want to do? Because we know that if we remove Warwick Farm from their use, we know as an assembly very well that there are not lots of other places they can go. But even if there were, they need more than a few months' notice. And the Connotab's next amendment gives them only a few months' notice. It says they've got to be out by this time next year. In fact, earlier than this time next year, they'll be gone. Jobs will be lost. Investment will be lost. And the really important growing area of the agriculture industry will also be lost. So, sir, if we do want a country park in Vallée des Vaux, that's fine. But let's do so in conjunction with the business that's there. Let's work with that business to say, hey, you have your new 9 or 10-year lease, and during the course of that lease, we can work with you to develop it. But the truth is, sir, I don't know if that's actually even possible. For this business could be going for 30, 40, 50, 60 years. This business is very likely to outlive all of us. And we need to provide space for businesses like that to operate. Because businesses like that are the heart and soul of this island, the heart and soul of the economy of this island. And it astounds me, time and again, how we show such a lack of understanding of the way businesses operate. In fact, I know there are people in this assembly who have been openly hostile towards the idea of businesses at times. And it hurts me because it's those businesses which create the money, which creates the services which we, as a States Assembly, want to see deployed. So, sir, I ask members to please think about what this is. This isn't about saying, no, never have a country park there. It is about saying, remove the uncertainty so this business can develop. And then, behind the scenes, conversations can carry on, but not in a public way, which can affect investment into that business in this way. And at the very least, talk to this business, sir. Because I know the Environment Minister has not talked to this business about this proposition, about this inclusion in the island plan. And that's just wrong. So, sir, I will listen, obviously, to the arguments, and I think I know most of the arguments against my proposition, my amendment. But I really want States members to think about what they're doing here. It is so seductive to say, yes, a country park. Yes, I know St Helier needs open space. But St Helier also needs employment, and the island also needs employment. And the island needs innovative businesses, the heart of Jersey's enterprise. That's what Jersey has been built on for centuries. Enterprise, spotting opportunities in the global markets and taking them. I mean, this business is exactly what the Economic Development Minister should be supporting, because this is a business that is helping the island. It is not controversial. It is working with the UK government to make sure that everything it does is highly regulated. It is turning heads around the world. It is in itself a leader, and we are in danger of squashing it, despite the fact that it was government that gave it the opportunity to exist in the first place. We cannot do that, sir. We have to be straight with businesses. We have to be straight if we want a successful economy. So, sir, I make the amendment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Is the amendment seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Connotab St Helier.
Thank you, sir.
Connotab, I agree that if this amendment is adopted, then your 31st Amendment would
Thank
fall
you very
away.
much, sir. And could I just say, so that members can consider the fact that I do not propose to move paragraph A of my amendment, should this one be defeated. So the phrase upon the expiry of the present lease in January 23 would not be part of my amendment, sir.
Thank you.
So Deputy Morell has the luxury, in a way, of proposing and summing up this debate. He also has the luxury, which he started to enjoy, I think, in that speech, of speaking for as long as he wants. I have just 15 minutes to make a case for not deleting the prospect of a country park from the island plan. And I don't have the chance to comment at the end, although certainly in the old days, rescindment motions, because that's what this effectively is, would allow the person whose matter is being rescinded to have something to say at the end. Certainly a vote of no confidence would. The deputy says that he knows what the arguments are going to be. Well, sir, he doesn't. He doesn't know because he's never been to talk to me. And although he started off by saying he was sad to bring the amendment, I don't believe he is, because if he'd really been concerned, he would have sought out the member of the States Assembly who had first brought the idea to the States and said, tell me about it. He would have said, look, I'm troubled by the idea of using the break clause in the lease. And I would have said, well, I'm relaxed about that, as I just indicated to members a few moments ago. Let them have the full duration of their lease to look for alternative premises on the island. But he didn't come and talk to me, and I think it's a shame. And certainly it is my policy, if I'm going to take on a minister or anybody in this assembly, that I will have given the courtesy of having a conversation with them, because it might have spared us having what could be a lengthy debate. If, as I have said, I would have said, well, let them have the full duration of their lease. Don't have a problem. The deputy is also completely wrong when he says, and he said it several times, that Jersey Hemp have not been consulted. Oh, they have. They have been consulted. I've been up there. I've been around their premises. I have marveled at what they're doing. And I've told them that I really admire their work. I think what they're doing is fantastic. But when I went round them, I said to them, you know, don't you, that this site is in the previous island plan, where the states agreed that feasibility work will be done on the possibility of the site being used one day for a country park. So I said to them, look, you know that, don't you? You are, in a sense, here, it's a pilot project to get your business going, but you do need to be looking for somewhere else, because I will be coming in the next island plan to make sure that this site is developed for a park. So it is completely erroneous and misleading for the deputy to tell the Assembly that this business has not been consulted. They know exactly how the land lies. The only thing they may not have known was that I was prepared to say, look, have the full duration of your lease, but please start looking for alternative premises. So I hope I've cleared up those two matters, sir. The deputy should have spoken to the mover of the original proposition in the last island plan, and I'll keep stressing that because this is not new, and he should have been straight. Perhaps they didn't tell him about my visit, but they certainly knew about the island plan because, of course, it's a public document, and of course they knew what was going on. And let there be no doubt, sir, that I completely endorse what the deputy is saying about the value of local businesses, the value of agribusinesses, of organic businesses. I think it's great. And as I said, sir, I went round those premises with my mouth hanging open, actually, because it is just so amazing what they're doing. And I want them to continue to do it, but I don't want them to do it there. And I'll explain to members why. So this is a states-owned site, and it should be used to maximum public benefit. How can a private business, however successful, have a greater public benefit than a park catering for perhaps 50,000 people in Jersey? Because this country park will be there to serve the entire urban population. And what it will provide, it may provide a bowling club. That all rather depends on what happens in the great hospital decision, which is coming up next month. But if we assume for a moment, I apologise to members who don't want to even think about it, if we assume that the hospital gets planning permission, then Jersey Bowling Club, and I think we all know why, I don't agree with it, but Jersey Bowling Club premises on Westmount Road are going to be bulldozed. I don't think it's necessary, but anyway, we'll leave that for now. We've had that debate. And Jersey Bowling Club have been promised a site up at Warwick Farm. And I think that's great. And I look forward, and I should declare I'm the president of the Jersey Bowling Club, so I apologise I didn't say that at the beginning. So that will be there, and Jersey Hemp, I believe, I've not been party to the negotiations, but I believe that Jersey Hemp are prepared to work around the bowling club. They need to make sure they're not sort of on the receiving end of those woods that come flying down the green when it's built, but I'm sure that can be accommodated. And that, for me, the bowling club will be the linchpin of the country park, because in time, when the feasibility work has been done, following the government plan this year, in time, the bowling club will be joined by other things. They'll be joined by mountain bike trails for our youngsters to use. They'll be joined by possibly horse riding routes around the farm and the adjoining valleys, possibly a zip wire. There might be the kind of centre for forest studies that we have in the Francis Lesworth Centre out west. So members who've read my amendment and the background, which goes back 10 years, let's face it, it's not new, but they will know that the park that I based my idea on in Eastleigh, the country park called Itchen Valley Country Park, to give it its proper name, was for me, when I went round it, and I was taken around it by members of Eastleigh Council, was a complete revelation, because so many members of the public were there. They were mountain biking, they were riding, they were picnicking, they were going to find out about woodlands in the centre that had been built for them. And many of them just wanted somewhere where they could go for a run or go for a wander. And that is really important for the city of Eastleigh, and it's really important for the urban area, when we've had the arguments already, as we take on thousands of new homes. So, sir, it is simply not a good use of public land to say that this business, and the deputy actually talked about 30 or 40 years. And he said, well, they'll be dead and they'll still be running their business. Well, sir, I hope not. I hope that in 30 or 40 years' time, the country park will be serving the needs of the urban community. I hope that it will have grown, and that landowners would have seen what's going on and shared the vision and said, look, add my fields to the country park. And that it'll be like a horseshoe around the urban area of St Helier and St Saviour, providing that relief and that release for young people and people of all ages who want to get out and get some fresh air. So, sir, I think members need to just to remember what really happened. The previous Minister of Infrastructure, who was also a deputy of St Lawrence, by some strange coincidence, the previous minister knew the island plan had already designated this site for a feasibility study into a country park. And when the Warwick Farm became empty, he declined my request to consider even a 6-month period when we could see what was possible. He went straight out to tender, and he awarded the contract, the lease, to Jersey Hemp. He knew what he was doing, sir. I don't for a minute suggest that he was more concerned about St Lawrence and its lovely rural walks than the inhabitants of the urban area. But I think it's kind of ironic that we have another deputy from St Lawrence or from the rural area who's saying to St Helier, to St Saviour, up to 50,000 people, you don't need a country park. You've got Valley de Vaux. Isn't that big enough? No, sir, it's not. So, sir, I'm disappointed. I'm probably at least as sad as the deputy is in bringing this, that he has brought his amendment without talking to me. I am prepared, insofar as I have anything to do with it, for that business to see the full length of its lease working around the bowling club. But quite honestly, sir, why shouldn't St Helier have a Les Creux? A Les Creux for St Helier is what I have a vision of, and I do urge members not to deny the urban area that possibility. Thank you, sir.
Sir, point of clarification, please, sir.
Would you accept a point of clarification, Connie Tarb, the Deputy?
No, so I've made my speech. He can sum up.
Yes, thank you. Does any member wish to speak?
Sir, could
Senator
I ask
Murdoch?
the defo to be raised on Senator Farnham and Deputy Tadjab, please?
Yes, members content with the defo being raised? Defo is raised on both members. Yes. Does any member wish to speak on this amendment? Minister.
So, it's such a shame that effectively we're in a situation now where what is a really important proposal to try and do something to provide recreational and open space opportunities for town residents, is at risk because somehow or other a kind of wires have got crossed about a use that has gone on state-owned site. And a use on, from what I hear, is at least until 2026, an interim use, making use of that site. It's such a shame that we're in that situation because we really ought to be able to accommodate both. Now, I have been to, when I got first elected, I wanted to find out about this business because one's heard all about it. And so I visited. I have to say I haven't visited recently, but I was impressed with the innovation of the work done there. Although I have to say the majority of the site that faced the main road, St John's Main Road, the glass houses and so, when I went there, were in an extreme state of dereliction. And I thought this is something, frankly, that really should be, really is not good use of state-owned land. The sheds that I saw where Jersey Hemp is operating is down south of 3D Lane, which runs through the site. Lovely, beautiful little parish lane. There's some agricultural, modern-day agricultural buildings, and it's impressive that what goes on there is Jersey Hemp harvests the flowers, strips the I don't know if they call it the bark or what, the outer skin of the hemp plants that they've harvested, and then they put it through processing to extract hemp oil, yes, which then gets mixed in with other things and marketed on the market. And of course I know that that product is a successful one. It's what we call a novel food, which incidentally I've pointed out before is at the moment unregulated and will fall within the new food legislation. So that's something that business will have to address. But at the moment, I think what my view of it, when I visited there in 2018, I saw it as I don't mean this pejoratively, but as a very much a pilot business, what some might call a cottage business, to see how this works. And obviously they've proven it. They've got some issues still to solve because one of the sheds, when I went there, contains a very large amount of waste, which at the moment, I know that the deputy spoke about the vision about making it into hempcrete as an alternative building material. But of course that would require a large open site where mixing could go on with cement and so on. And at the moment that material is when I went there, it was stored there. I don't know whether they've been able to ship it off or what. Ultimately, of course, they could put it back in the incinerator, as it were, energy from waste plant, and of course the fixed carbon would go back in. But anyway, never mind. There's some issues there to solve. So I formed the impression it's a good business. They've done extremely well, and really, I was surprised. My expectation would be is that they would want in the longer term, because they've got an interim lease, to relocate. And of course, I asked myself, well, what do the planning policies provide? There's a whole suite of policies in the island plan, which help such businesses. Policy E11, EI1, new industrial sites and premises, which supports rural certification, that encourages that. ERE2, diversification of rural economy, and ERE3, even new and extended agricultural buildings, new buildings. So if you do a case and you've proven it, you could well manage to jump that planning hurdle and gain consent. So I'd imagine that, so it's a real shame that this has come to us as a negative situation, negative to what is a visionary. It is visionary to have a park on the edge of St Helier. Because I asked the question, if we don't have it there, where would we provide that facility? I'm fortunate, I live in St Blas, we have Le Creux. And, I'm sure members have been to Le Creux. It's great. There's a bowls club. The children doing BMXing. People do country walks. There's allotments there. There's a parking area there. Nice. Thankfully, it's not tarmac, don't want that. And my vision is that if the project that's proposed in the island plan, which we now know are going to lose if Deputy Morell's proposition goes ahead, during the time of the bridging plan, then there a plan for how that would be and what's in it and where it all goes and so on would all be shaped up. That's going to take 3 years. It's not going to happen tomorrow. And I'm really pleased. I'm very hopeful that the Conitaal's making it plain that he's not wishing to displace that successful business before the expiry of its use. I think that really helps.
Sir, point of clarification, please, sir.
Yes.
Would you accept this, sir? Would you accept this, sir?
Yes, sir.
Deputy.
I'd just like, would the Minister please clarify the actual length of the lease as stands?
Well, so I'm relying on what's been said. I'm not the infrastructure minister, sir. So the honest truth is I don't know. I haven't seen the lease. But I understand...
Sir, point of clarification on that, please. I can clarify that the lease expires at the end of this year, sir, because it has been broken by Jersey Property Holdings formally.
Sir, the only comment I'd make on that is, look, I think we're having a planning debate, sir. Planning debates don't deal with the day-to-day management of the leases. The issue, I think, here is that under the island plan, this project, which the Deputy is seeking to take out, is not a zoning, it's a proposal. Like the other day, we discussed about Five Oaks and things. It's going to take time. It's like we talked about. It's going to take 3 years. Now, I'm not the person that has any responsibility for that lease, but it's entirely open to the states. If it has been broken, it's open to them, give them a new lease. But the work, I cannot see any way that the work, we're going to be in a position to pull this project together and shape all the elements of it and fund it, because it's going to need some investment within the timescale of the bridging island plan. But I know one thing, take it out now, which I think this debate could do, will, I think, destroy the possibility that that can be in. And I do remember long speaking to previous members who held my position as Minister of Environment, who had same aspirations. We really do need to provide this amenities. One can imagine children's play space, the weekends on the edge of town. So the Constable's made that case. It's such a shame we get ourselves in this pickle. Once upon a time, we used to use land at La Colette for industrial businesses. We used to encourage businesses to relocate. It must be possible for the new infrastructure minister or whatever minister has the job of managing property in the future to be able to construct some lease arrangements or some opportunity which doesn't destroy this successful business. It must be possible to do that. But that can't be done in the mechanics of the island plan, sir. I don't want to confuse it anymore, but really we must not lose the country park proposal, sir.
Minister, there's a point of clarification from Senator Le Fondre in the chat. Would you accept that point of clarification?
Yes, of course I would, sir.
Senator Le Fondre, what's your point of clarification?
So I think it's probably been covered. It's really, as the last question being asked, is really to confirm that a lease is not a planning matter, sir, and therefore is not a matter for the Bridging Island plan. But I think the the Deputy covered that, sir.
Yes. Thank you. Deputy Martin.
Thank you, sir. And I always try and support my constable. And I was wavering a bit there when the Deputy Morell was speaking, because he was explaining, we all need money. We need money to get these things done. I was here when we debated this being the St Helier Country Park. I think it was probably in 2011, the last island plan and the feasibility study. And then, when I was listening to the Deputy speak, he actually painted so brilliant a picture of this new enterprise, Jersey Hemp, which I do absolutely fully support. We need to diversify in the country Jersey Hemp are doing it. It's a natural product. But if you actually follow the deputy's line of thinking through, they're there. He wants them to stay there. They've already gone from 3 employers the start-up people, brilliant entrepreneurs, etc., starting a business. They have now 12 full-time employees. Surely they want to grow. So they're going to grow into the vision of what was St Helier Country Park. And there are, other places. Is it easier just to say, oh, not St Helier, it's there, leave it, let's have a little bit more, let's take a little bit more. And I am very concerned that today, I thought we had a solution when I heard the constable say, I'm going to take that bit out about the lease, because I absolutely agree, a few months or even half a year to say to this company, we've put so much in, you've now got to move. I then heard the Environment Minister say, I think it was 2026, I thought, that's all right, 4 years. We now know the lease has been broken, so it's not been given. I'm sure that can be sorted out, but I do see, if it's not today and we don't say, well, yes, you can stay, you can't stay there, it will creep further and further in. And as the Council of St Helier says, it's been in feasibility or not, it's not been looked at or not been taken seriously enough in the last 11 years, and probably 12 now. And we know that we need this. So I think it's sort of going to be having to bang heads together. I fully support what the Deputy is trying to do, but it can't stay here and ruin what we want, what we've already said will be a country park for St Helier. Well, actually, probably much more than St Helier. Half of the island to go to and be able to get to quite easily. So it's a dilemma, but I can't support the Deputy. But I hope somebody like the Infrastructure Minister or the Economic Minister can stand up and say, there can be some guarantees that this will carry on for a few, we'll try and do our best, it will carry on. But as the Constable says, the people who took the land on knew when they started it was temporary. It's less temporary, but it needs to be a little bit longer. And we will not, if we support Deputy Morell today, we will never, I think, get a St Helier Country Park in that area. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Taddeo.
Thank you, sir. As we come up to the election period, so I found it necessary to remind myself of the series of logical fallacies that one can encounter during any particular argument. And I need to remind myself what the definition of a straw man argument was. And it says that it's a type of logical fallacy that occurs when someone deliberately distorts or misrepresents their opponent's position to make it easier to defeat. Now, I'm not saying that this is what Deputy Morell is doing, but interestingly enough, I'm reminded of a proverb. I think it's from Proverbs in the Bible, but there's a passage where it says, when you listen to an argument in court, you're really convinced when you hear the first person speaking until you then hear the second person speak. And then you realise, actually, I now am more inclined to go with the second person. And that's because I think that what happened is that Deputy Morell, quite rightly, is very strongly in favour of business. And he wants to set himself up in this debate as saying, I'm the true defender of businesses in the island, and everybody else is slightly less or very much less pro-business than I am, and sets us up with this difficult choice, again, between having a country park on the very doorstep of St Helier or supporting a local business which is genuinely, sounds great, it's diversifying, it's doing what they need to do, in what was, I think, always set up to be a temporary home for them. And I think it's important when the Minister, fellow colleague from St Brelade, stands up and says, look, it's okay for some of us, we've got parks on our doorstep. I would add to Lecro Country Park and say, we've also got some of the, I think, the amazing coastline in St Brelade, so whether you live near the park or not, you can just nip down the road to De Noirmont, to Portlet, to St Brelade's Bay, to Waynay, to Corbière, you can walk that whole area, or as I do often, the sand dunes, sir. And I make no secret of the fact that I don't currently live in St. Brelard, but I do spend a lot of time there, and the sand dunes, in particular Les Blanches Banques, is one of my favourite walking spots. But we also, you know, where I live, it only takes me a few minutes to go up the road, and I'm on the north coast, and I can walk as long as I want to until I or the dog gets tired, until I want to come back. I won't tell you who gets tired first, and other people can go to their parks. So it shouldn't be a choice here of saying, wouldn't it be amazing if you live in that part of St. Helier, or even in inner St. Helier, just to be able to walk out, and then you've got a vast expanse of countryside, not just simply a little park, which we squabbled about yesterday, how big should the size of Ringbinder Park be, but we've actually got an expansive part in the middle of town which you don't need to go onto the coast for, especially if you don't have a car, of course. We're trying to encourage sustainable living. So I can't accept this, what I see as a false dichotomy. And I do think that, I suspect that Deputy Morell is right, that there probably hasn't been proper consultation. I know how government works. And that we need to make sure that we speak properly to Jersey Hemp and give them any assistance that we can, or whoever the ministers are at the time, to relocate to a suitable location. But I also know that walking through the countryside, there are no shortages of fields. And whilst I might not want to concrete over fields to build lots of housing when I think there are other options yet to be explored, I don't have a problem with fields being used for growing things, whether that's growing things directly in the ground or by putting structures on their greenhouses, etc., to grow, as what Deputy Morell says quite rightly, is an ancient tradition, including in Jersey, of growing hemp. And that brings me full circle back to Le Kennevet, sir, which we know is the corruption, if you like, of the word Chenevière, which meant the old place, the fields for growing hemp. So it is certainly a tradition. I don't think there's any room in Le Kennevet anymore to grow hemp, sir, unfortunately, but there certainly is lots of locations throughout the island, if we wanted to, where we could grow hemp, not just CBD extraction for that purpose, but also to make sure that we can provide THC, proper medicinal products, not just for export, but for those in our island who currently, incidentally, have to pay a very large amount of money to get the medicine they need, which is another form of equality, sir, but that's an argument for another day.
Thank you, Deputy. Does any member wish to speak on this amendment? Connétable St. Brelard.
Thank you, sir. And I too have visited Warwick Farm with, in conjunction with my scrutiny panel, to look at the efforts going on there. And I also am aware of the site when it was used by the Transport and Technical Services as the headquarters for their Parks and Gardens department. Now, what seems to me has happened, sir, that Jersey Hemp have actually morphed into that previous site. It may be, it's a hodgepodge of buildings, there's no question about that, and it is not laid out for the specific purpose of a hemp growing experimental farm, but they've used the buildings to their best of their ability. One actually wonders in this, and I'm just listening to the discussion this morning, whether this is something that should have been actually at the Howard Davis experimental farm. Perhaps we should have put more effort into putting them up there. I don't know what the status of the greenhouses up there is now, but I don't think they're used for the original purpose. Sadly, sir, Warwick Farm exists or became available to Jersey Hemp because government failed with the provision of its in-house parks and gardens maintenance, which is now predominantly contracted out, although some is still done from within the Howard Davis Park, I gather. The Minister may correct me in that, the Minister for Infrastructure may correct me in that. The reference to Les Creux Country Park is interesting in that the concept is good and it's brilliant, it's very popular, I use it myself, but I must say as Councillor of the parish in which it lies, the maintenance of it is not good. And is that because it's managed by different parties within government maybe it's the Environment Minister, maybe it's the Transport Minister, but the result is not great. Now, sir, on the contrary, Parish of St Helier has its Parks and Gardens headquarters further down in Montalabé. They, sir, are good at parks and gardens, and they are exemplary in what's produced within the town. And I'm confident, sir, that Enderthing Park, a public park at Warwick Farm, would end up being extremely popular and well maintained. So to conclude, I would support Council of St Helier in this, not support this proposition, but I would urge further examination of the Howard Davis Farm site to take place to encourage the entrepreneurial business that's taking place at Warwick Farm at the moment. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Conatar. Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? Yes, Chief Minister.
Yes, thank you, sir. Just to be very as short as I can, I will not be supporting this amendment, sir. I listened quite carefully to both speeches of Deputy Morrell and the Conatar of St Helier, and in essence, in the nicest possible way, sir, the Deputy Morrell's speech was all about giving a good business, but a business priority on a piece of land over and above any other use, sir. And by that I mean, sir, it's effectively saying that, if one likes, that by taking away the nature of his speech was very much focused about one business. And therefore, and I agree with other speakers, sir, that if one removes this proposal, and I think the Minister particularly outlined how that proposal works and what its status is in the island plan, it would severely curtail the idea of the country park, which, as the Conatar has rightly pointed out, has been around for, I think he said at the very least, since the 2011 island plan, and certainly in my political time has been around for a very, very long time, and of which I've always been supportive. And so I do take the view, sir, though, that the Minister actually alluded to as well, that the site, particularly over time, will evolve, and that those early years of evolution will require sharing, sir. And that means I would hope that one could give the certainty to that company going forward, but that one can then establish the framework and structure as to how Warwick Farm will evolve into a country park. And I certainly buy into, sir, and that's a separate issue. That's frankly that's operational. And I also endorse all the comments that were made by the Conatar of St Brevard's. But I think the crucial bit there is about sharing the site, sir. And so I was unable to support the Conatar in terms of the battle against on the 8th Amendment, I think it was, sir. But I have always supported the concept of the country park, and I did listen to the vision of the Conatar. He is passionate in these type of areas, and you can really see the benefit that would come to residents of St Helier to have this access right on their doorstep. And so I've always thought as well, and it is referenced in the Bridging Island plan, that there is scope, sir, to link Fern Valley, Ballazan, all the residents from there, and actually Waterworks Valley, but through Fern Valley, up and through the fields in that area to link into Warwick Farm and to build that crescent arc, that semicircle, whatever you like to call it, that the Conatar referred to in terms of securing that area and basically bringing nature as close to the residents of St Helier as one can in a really good way. And actually, I did briefly Google his reference to, I think it's Itchen Park, and that looked fabulous. So, sir, I think from the point of view of securing and a facility for St Helier in the longer term, I really do think, sir, that this amendment should be rejected, which is obviously the comments from the Minister, and I do endorse absolutely the longer term establishment of the country park in a controlled manner. I absolutely agree the business needs certainty, but I think that's an evolution process, and in my view, I would have thought the site could be shared, sir, and I would expect that to be part of the planning guidance and the development plans that would come through, sir. and on that basis, I will be voting against this amendment, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief Minister. Senator Mezek.
Thank you, sir. And when I read the front page article of the Jersey Evening Post today, it of course indicated to me what a strained relationship I have with my constable when it comes to parks in St Helier, although I'm pleased that hopefully I may be able to repair some of that relationship today by saying that he has my wholehearted support in what he's seeking to do with delivering a St Helier country park. And this has been something that has been on the agenda for a very long time. And I think the basic fact of the matter with this amendment is that this would jeopardise that vision very significantly. And if we as an Assembly are to ditch that ambition for a St Helier country park, then we ought to be clear about that being our intention. The Constable, I thought, made an excellent case against this amendment in his speech, and followed up by Deputy Tadger referring to this argument about the business which is operating from there. You're not going to find anybody who's going to be negative about that particular business and what it's doing, but we do have to accept that there was a basis upon which they were able to operate from that site, and an understanding at the foundation of their operations there, and it's not unfair to stick to that basis and to stick to that understanding and say to them, you've known this is going to be the case for a long time, you should be accounting for that, and not only that, but we're happy to help you as well to make sure that you can find an alternative premises, that you get leeway perhaps if it's necessary, but not carte blanche, not to simply say things have changed since we agreed that we would look to put a country park in that area, so we'll just give up on that ambition because you've been successful. And you would hope that actually the more successful they are, the easier it would be to find somewhere else because of their mobility and their ability to set up elsewhere. But I would point out to members that we did reject an amendment earlier in this Island Plan debate about derelict greenhouse sites. So perhaps there is work that the government could do to find spaces like that which are being underused and falling apart, and use the weights that the government has to get some of those sites back into use. And if that can be done by working with this kind of business, you would be killing two birds with one stone. And we would deliver that country park that the Constable of St Helier has so brilliantly described, and provide that fantastic place for people in the urban area without jeopardising the success of an important business which we all wish to see thrive. That would be the best of both worlds, and that can't be done, or would certainly be jeopardised very seriously if this amendment is accepted. And so I would urge members to reject this amendment.
Thank you, Senator. Deputy Wickenden.
Thank you, sir. And actually, I'm finding this one quite difficult because I'm fighting on two sides here. I, very much like the proposer, fully support entrepreneurial businesses in the island, and this is one that is a real success story, and I think that Deputy Morell highlighted and laid out the achievements and the successes and how proud we should be of Jersey Hemp. On the other hand, I'll make a bold statement, sir. I probably know this area of Jersey better than anyone in the Assembly. I could see Warwick Farm from my window where we moved into the house in 1977, sir, and my mother still lives there. I grew up in this area. I grew up with my brother and my older sister, and one of the things that you could go for walks down the lanes and the like, but when I've been round there recently, traffic obviously with the increase in our population and cars and the likes makes it not the same. If not, you're always stopping to let a car past every 5 minutes when you're walking around the area. And we had to, funnily enough, if we wanted to go to the park, Mum would get us all into the car and we'd go to St Lawrence and we'd go down to Millbrook Way, and that's where we used to go as a family, to go and run around and jump in the swimming pool and the likes, because the area up there isn't serviced nearby by a park or any areas. You mainly have the roads and the country lanes to walk around, and as I said earlier, sir, that's not the same as it used to be when I was growing up. And even when I was growing up, there was too many cars probably going up and down the roads, probably going to the pub I live next door to, sir. So this is the dichotomy I find myself in, which is I absolutely agree that this is amazing business. We need to do the best we can to help it. And we shouldn't be putting any uncertainties on the business because they're one of our true success stories. One of many, but one of our true success stories, sir. On the other hand, the wording in the amendment is to remove the country park in its entirety. And for that, I cannot turn round and say to the people, my mum's neighbours, and knowing the area where it is, no, you have to travel to somewhere else to go and have a park area. I think it's a wonderful idea and a place that's really needed and will serve us all the way up through to the beginnings of St John and the likes. I think the Economic Development Department need to work quite strongly with Jersey Hemp and maybe the Environment Department to go and see what is the world of the possible and if we can find somewhere better, because there could be somewhere better to be able to help Jersey Hemp. Now, I don't know if I'll be supporting my constable in the next amendment. I think we need to give this success story in Jersey the time working with government to help them and with other landowners to find a suitable place and not directly tell them you've got till this time and you're out, and if you haven't found anywhere, tough. I don't want to see that happening, so I want to see some level of working with this company to help them out so we can help them deliver what they want and help the island deliver the country park in this area that it's been waiting for. So I as much as I was moved by the Deputy Morell's speech, and I think he laid it out very well, I can't support removing a country park from an area I know so well, sir, that is in desperate need of something just like this in this area, sir. But I don't know if I can be supporting my constable afterwards either, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Ash.
Thank you, sir. I do feel that sorry. I do feel that I have to come in on Deputy Morell's side here, sir. I realise he's more than capable of fighting his own battles, but I think he's been slightly wronged here. He's certainly right in the fact that the Assembly has very often adopted an anti-business agenda, which I think's a bizarre situation for an island built on trade and entrepreneurial spirit and free market economies, yet many in the Assembly often appear to despise it, so which is slightly odd. It's not often I disagree with the Chief Minister, sir, but I do hear he said this was putting a business before a park. I don't think it is. I think it's putting agriculture in an agricultural field before a park. And I'm only not going to speak for long, so I would ask the Assembly to ask themselves this question. If this was a field with Jersey Royals in it, or nice Jersey dairy cows and a Jersey herd, what would the answer be, sir? Would the answer be that we should get rid of them all and turn it into a park? What was the answer when we debated St Juan's and putting some affordable housing in and getting rid of a little dairy herd of 10 cows? What was the answer then, sir? I don't think it's that different. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Conor St John.
Thank you, sir. I'm also a frequent user of Le Creux, believe it or not, with my dog. We often go there, and I would concur with my colleague from St Ballard in terms of the maintenance. It's a great facility, but it could be even better. It's great to see the youngsters on their bikes, etc. I would ask the Infrastructure Minister if he could address the Assembly and confirm the length of the lease I was very heartened by the Constable of St Helier's withdrawal of Section A of his proposal, which gave me confidence that the current inhabitants would have plenty of time to relocate to hopefully bigger and better premises. In the last week, sir, we've agreed to put 50 or more homes at Zion. So I am sure that not only residents of St Helier and St Saviour would benefit from a park at the top of Montalabé, but also benefits of St John and Trinity would also get to utilise that facility. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Connétable. Connétable of St Lawrence.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful to the Constable of St Helier for including in Appendix 3 the extract from the Hansard transcript of the original debate on the 21st of June 2011, because it's reminded me of two things, sir. One is that I didn't participate in that debate, but that I did support the Constable and was one of the 44 members who voted in favour of his proposition at the time. It was 44, it was accepted, sir, by 44-3. The other thing that I was reminded of were the prophetic words of the Constable in his opening comments when he said, "It is the beginning of a long road if it is accepted." How true, how prophetic, sir, because that was 10, almost 11 years ago that his original proposition was accepted, sir. That was the will of the Assembly at that time. And Deputy de Souza, when she spoke, reminded us that the Constable had, in fact, at that time, consulted with his parishioners. He had called a meeting or an assembly, and he had been supported in his efforts to create this country park. I have found this debate to be extremely uncomfortable, sir, very uncomfortable. As a staunch supporter of our emergency services, my heartstrings were tugged when I heard Deputy Morale mention that this business, this new business, was formed, sir, by 3 former firefighters who clearly have served their island and who, if this amendment is rejected, may well feel that their service has been disregarded or overlooked, sir. So I found it very uncomfortable. I'm not clear in what capacity Deputy Morale has brought this amendment. Is it as a private member or is it in his role as Assistant Minister? And maybe when he sums up, sir, he'll be able to clear that matter up for us. The Constable of St Helier has mentioned a former deputy of St Lawrence, and I believe, am I able to name that deputy, sir?
If it's necessary to do so.
I would like to mention
Yes.
his name, if I may, sir. I believe it was Deputy Eddie Knoll, who at the time was the Infrastructure Minister, and of course he is the deputy who, I'm not sure if we heard that this was put out to tender or not, but the lease was awarded to Jersey Hemp. But the deputy at that time, sir, worked very closely with me to deliver an amenity benefit in the heart of the historic built parish of St Lawrence. So our 70th, what we did, sir, was we created a garden next to our parish church to mark the 70th anniversary of the liberation of Jersey. That garden, known colloquially as MLG, is actually the Monyard Liberation Garden. And some 5-6 years after it was created, sir, it's absolutely tiny. I do hope members have had the opportunity to see it over the past 5 or 6 years. It's very tiny, sir, but it's a very valuable and important amenity space not only, of course, for the parishioners of St Lawrence, but for islanders as a whole. And even now, sir, people stop me to say what a lovely little oasis it is in the middle of what we know is, in parts, a very rural parish. St Lawrence is a parish of two parts, sir. It's urban in the south, it's rural in the north. And we have heard from Deputy Wickenden that as a youngster, he used to go to Millbrook Park. That's another gem in St Lawrence, of course. And of course, we know the facilities are going to be improved this year with the children's pool and play area, sir. So the other really marvellous amenity that we have in my parish, sir, is the Millennium Footpath, which runs through Waterworks Valley, and thanks to Deputy Morrell, that is a protected area under this Bridging Island plan. And of course, we are grateful to our current Chief Minister who led on the delivery of that Millennium Footpath. But, sir, to me, I know I live in a lovely parish. I'm lucky to have these amenity areas. But if this amendment by Deputy Morrell is carried, of course, sir, then we've heard that I think it's Amendment 91 of the Constable of St Lawrence, St Helier, sir, cannot be debated. It will fall away. So I have to say, sir, that I am sorry that in this instance I am unable to support my deputy in his endeavours to protect this new business. But his endeavours are to protect it on the site as it is now. And I would suggest, sir, that what we as an assembly, it seems to me the comments are that we support this new industry, this diversity within our economy, but what we should be doing is ensuring that if and when this amendment is lost and the Constables is approved, if and when this business needs to leave Warwick Farm, it must be found. We must use best endeavours to find another site that is suitable for it, sir, but also suitable for it to grow, because as we've heard, it has grown. There are 12 employees there already, and potentially there is the prospect of more people being employed within this new and enterprising business. So yes, I live in St Lawrence, which has the benefit of a lot of rural area, as well as, of course, the urban part to it. But if this park was created, clearly it is something that I would wish to use as an amenity facility within the island. And as the Constable said earlier when he spoke, I think he mentioned potentially 50,000 people could use this if it is developed. But of course, far more than that could use it. We're an island of 100 plus. So we have to weigh up, and again, we use that word weigh, we balance our decisions. And my decision, sir, has weighed, I'm afraid, against Deputy Morrell's amendment. Laudable, sir, as I believe it to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Conor Tarb. Deputy Truscott.
Yes, thank you, sir. I'll try not to prolong this too long, and I totally concur with the previous speaker. Just must state, first of all, that I am a ratepayer in St Helier, our own property there. And I've got to say, when I did work, it was up at West Hill, very often at lunchtime I would go for a walk around Fern Valley a few times and then back to work again. And that is so good, one, for the mental state and the soul. And I will sadly not be supporting Deputy Morrell with this amendment, but will be supporting the Constable with his. Deputy Morrell and I both sit on the planning committee, and very often we're up against employment properties and land, and the ERE1 is the policy that is so under pressure. And I totally concur with Deputy Morrell that, one, we need businesses to bolster the economy. look, let's face it, going forward, we're going to need every penny of taxpayers' money that we can possibly get our hands on to finance some very ambitious projects going forward. And I do really admire the way this business has conducted themselves up at Warwick Farm, and to make such inroads in this really early kind of industry, but pioneering in many ways, and making great inroads and producing jobs and much valuable taxes, hopefully. But I think, for me, it just sounds like there needs to be a bit of communication. I'm sad to hear that the Deputy Morell didn't communicate with the Constable, and I think that really would have helped matters here. I mean, perhaps an agreement could have been arrived at where another few years could have been provided to the company to stay on site. That could still happen, and perhaps that conversation needs to happen after this meeting. But as I say, it's for me, it's the park here that is of prime importance, particularly for St Helier. As I say, I've been on the planning committee for 8 years. I've seen so much construction happen there. This green oasis at the top of Queen's Road is going to be invaluable going forward. And let's face it, the Japanese love forest bathing, and I think the St Helier people need a similar type facility. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy St Martin.
Thank you, sir. And members will remember not very many hours ago now, we finished yesterday afternoon's debate by discussing how much we've got left to do and how we're going to have to sit late tonight and tomorrow. And I have to say, sir, I'm really disappointed an hour and a half into the morning that we haven't moved on. And that is because almost immediately after Deputy Morell started talking, I wrote down one word at the top of my page, and that is compromise. And the compromise came within seconds of the constable standing up and speaking. And he compromised by saying, I won't use the break clause, and I'll take out the Part A of the next amendment, which refers to January 23, and we will have more time on site. So there is a way forward here, and that extra time is going to allow us to do that. The constable's also right that the town park was in discussion, great discussion, a long time before Jersey Hemp came along, and I remember them coming along. I was the Environment Minister at the time. I took a huge amount of interest in what they were doing and encouraged them as much as I possibly could. I remember sowing the first fields and going to see them, the crop growing, and it was fantastic. So I'm not going to go on, otherwise I'll be accusing myself of being a hypocrite and talking for a great distance when we don't need to. But there is a solution here. I support this industry wholeheartedly, but I don't need to support Deputy Morell today with this amendment, because I know there's a solution in front of us, a compromise solution which we must seek to find. So I'll vote accordingly. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Senator Moore.
Thank you, sir. And I absolutely concur with the Deputy St Martin that we need to be brief, but I do struggle somewhat with the compromise suggestion there, because many speakers have spoken already about how much they admire this particular business and how much they've achieved, which of course I agree. But in order to support businesses, we have to help them find premises and find space with which to conduct their business in the island. And we've focused a lot about housing, obviously, in this debate so far. But one of the key reasons people contact us, or certainly they have me in recent weeks, has been a desire to find light industrial space. That is severely lacking in the island. And so what will be the alternative space that will be found for this business? And what really puzzles me about the Constable of St Helier's scheme here is, firstly, the timing of it. Okay, so it's been around for about 10 years, but we've made no progress. We have no funding. And and all of a sudden it re-emerged as an idea and a thing when it became politically expedient to do so, and we do have to be honest here. It suddenly re-emerged when hospital deliberations were becoming a bit difficult. And so I do have to say that there is a sense of some dubiousness about this project and the timing of it. The other factor that puzzles me, and I think Deputy Wickenden touched upon it briefly, is how people will get to this country park. It is a considerable way out of the centre of town where the majority of people live. In fact, it's almost in Trinity, sir. I have walked the lanes, both along Fern Valley and particularly through the valley to the east. And it is not particularly conducive for pedestrians, although Vallée des Vaux might be a green lane. That it is quite busy and heavy with traffic. So I assume that because the Constable of St Helier is such a passionate believer that every resident of St Helier should own their own car, he expects them all to drive there. So if they're going to drive up the road to Almost Trinity, why not drive to Les Creux? Why not drive to the coast? Why not drive to the north coast? They might as well. So I'm really struggling, actually, to understand the practicalities of what we're trying to achieve, what exactly we're protecting and who we're going to help. We do have vast amounts of open space in the island that we all enjoy. And yes, of course, we want to protect, but we also need to protect a thriving business industry and a particularly young one at that. So we have to balance as an assembly our priorities. And I will be supporting Deputy Morel in doing exactly what he should be doing as the Assistant Economic Development Minister and ensuring that a relatively new industry can continue and thrive. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Senator. Does any other member speak on this amendment? Yes, Deputy Lewis.
Thank you, sir. First, to clear up a few bits of confusion, sir. People refer to state-owned land. Not an awful lot of this actually comes under my jurisdiction of property holdings. I mean, what is state-owned land? We're talking SOJDC, we're talking Andium. You know, there's lots of, obviously, arm's length departments that we do have. But regarding Warwick Farm, that does come under property holdings. But the Chief Minister is absolutely correct when he said that the States Assembly is no place to discuss commercial contracts. And I've no intention of doing so. Suffice to say that senior officers at Property Holdings have kept the leaseholders fully informed every step of the way. I agree that the area should be shared in the near future, and in the long-term future, I think it would be an ideal place for a park. Having said that, I am obliged by statute, it's actually on the books, that all public land, obviously under my jurisdiction, belongs to the people of Jersey, and I am mandated to get value for money for that land. The last large tract of land I had actually was the Limes, which I've signed over to Andium to build much needed housing. So everything we have is being used. People think I've got lots of property on the portfolio, got lots of seawalls in tarmac, but that's not much good to anyone else. But I fully appreciate what Deputy Morel is saying here, but I must come down slightly on the side of the Constable of St Helier, and I hope he is listening in the coffee room. But as I say, it's a very, very difficult one for me because my department will be losing money on this, but this is the will of the States Assembly, which I must carry out. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? I call upon the Deputy to reply. Deputy Morel.
Thank you, sir. Thank you indeed. It's always hard to be sat there whilst being kicked. So relentlessly. and I will get to a closing speech. But beforehand, sir, I'll correct a few of the misleading statements that were made. So I will talk about the lease because Jersey Hemp have told me about it, and they know that I'm going to talk about it here. So I find it fascinating. Everyone has fallen, if we want to talk about straw man arguments, everyone has fallen for the Connétable de St Helier's very large straw man argument. I will remove paragraph A of my amendment. I don't know. I have actually no record of this. I've just been looking through my emails. I don't know where he has said this. But other people are telling me that he has. So paragraph A, which is upon the expiry of the present lease in January 2023, he's going to remove that. Well, that's fantastic. As I've said, the lease has already been broken. It expires in 2023, full stop. Connétable can have as much goodwill as he likes with his paragraph A. It won't change a thing by withdrawing that. Nothing. And then if you want to look at the paragraph B and C, which everyone is so in favour of in this assembly because they want to protect the economy and they want to protect this business, and paragraph B and C show how this can be done. Well, paragraph B, the Council of Ministers will establish a project board to develop proposals to be included in the next government plan in order that the country park can be delivered during the period covered by the Bridging Island Plan. Well then, that means at the very best, they've got till 2025. At the very best. In an island where there is no employment land. I will go further. I believe that the Environment Minister has been negligent in not including proper provision for employment land in this island plan. This island cannot function if people don't work and if people don't earn money. Everything falls apart. The social security system falls apart. The tax system falls apart. In my view, the economic ignorance that is often shown in this assembly is astounding. And this speaks to that. Well, don't worry, we can sort that out. They can move. We'll give them basically less than 3 years, 2.5 years, a business that they've developed over 5 years that is turning heads worldwide. That's okay. We'll give them, at best, 2.5 years. But actually, what will the lease be? The lease that no longer exists because it has been broken. And so, sir, I also turn to other straw man arguments. I found it incredibly disappointing that the Connétable de St Helier drew on some sort of vague parochial distinction to say that, oh, it was the former infrastructure minister who happened to be also from St Lawrence. I can promise the Assembly, I have not spoken to the former infrastructure minister in an extremely long time. Certainly more than a year, and I have certainly never discussed this with him ever. There is nothing parochial about this. Find my notes, sir. The Connétable de St Helier also then went on to say that I hadn't spoken to him about this. Well, there we go. Not only did I engage a conversation with him about it 2 days ago in the tea room downstairs, maybe 3 days ago, but I also met him in town one day when he is accompanied with one of his parochial officers. And I said, oh, I really need to speak to you about this. And the Connétable said, that's okay, this officer will arrange that meeting. And I said, brilliant. I heard nothing. I then chased that officer. I heard nothing again afterwards. It can be difficult to get hold of the Connétable de St Helier. So I think it's incredibly saddening. And then we had Deputy Tadier jump up and talk about straw man arguments. Those are your straw man arguments, parochial differences, and talk about consultation that never happened, but actually attempts were made. And then there was also talk of consultation. Oh, both the Environment Minister and the Connétable de Saint-Hélier have been to Warwick Farm. They've talked about this in depth, we've heard. Well, sir, apparently the Connétable de Saint-Hélier have visited Warwick Farm once at the beginning of their lease and insisted on speaking about the carbon farm only. Refused to talk about Jersey hemp. And I know the Environment Minister only went there at the beginning of Jersey Hemp's lease, at the beginning of his time as an assistant minister. He hasn't, as a minister, apologies, he hasn't been since. And he has never spoken to them about this proposition in the island plan. So if you want straw man arguments, those are your straw man arguments. But I sit here and I take it. Other straw man arguments are, I've got the opportunity to respond. Apparently this is wrong. Apparently because I have more than 15 minutes to make my points and I can respond to my proposition, which is exactly the same right as every other member in this assembly. Apparently that's wrong in this case because it doesn't suit the Connétable de Saint-Hélier. It's the rules of this assembly. I have to put up with this. I have to listen and hear the responses. I only have my 15 minutes for every other proposition which I don't bring. So why bring that? That is a straw man argument. So I find it interesting when Deputy Tudyer talks about straw man arguments because he failed to acknowledge all of those straw man arguments that were clearly made against my amendment and against me. I found it interesting that Deputy Martin talked about there are other places. Where, Deputy Martin? May I visit Martin's estate agents and find out where all these other places for employment land are? Because they don't exist, sir. We're strangling our economy. We have not diversified our economy. I put a very clear chart on social media a couple of months ago. It showed finance has stagnated for 20 years. There has been almost no diversification of the economy in 20 years. The only growth story in our economy is rental. Private landlords' rental is the only growth story in our economy in 20 years. If people don't work, if businesses don't thrive, we won't have anything to talk about in this assembly other than emergency supplies of food and the such like, because we need an economy that works. If you want people to enjoy a country park, they need jobs to go to so they can enjoy that country park without the stress of wondering where their dinners are coming from, sir. I do worry about this assembly. I do worry that it completely misunderstands the needs of the economy and of businesses. I see that in the government of Jersey's procurement processes. I see that in the way the government of Jersey treats businesses when it comes to reclaiming or demanding refunds from the co-funded payroll scheme. I see it when businesses in Jersey are given 7 days to respond to a request for proposals for tenders or invitations to tenders. 7 days. And then the government sits on those tenders for months and months and months and months and months before responding. I know, and I am fed up of just seeing how government does not get it. People in government, from officers through to politicians in this assembly, do not get how we are making it harder and harder and harder to earn a crust on this island. And Deputy Tudyer had the nerve to also say that this was some sort of electioneering. This is not electioneering. This is a private citizen of the island who's really, really worried about the future of this island. And from the Connétable de Saint-Laurent, I bring this as a private member, just to clarify that. And importantly, when I know Deputy Tudyer also talked about, there are other fields they can use. This isn't actually about fields so much. The fields at Warwick Farm are used, but also 2,000 vergees of fields around the island are also used by Jersey Hemp. Fields outside of Warwick Farm are very much in use for this business. It is the ability to have a laboratory, have a processing centre, have staff facilities. These are also there, and these are also really, really important. These are the things which really matter and are incredibly difficult to get hold of. I know the Connétable Saint-Vrelade talked about a hodgepodge of buildings. Those buildings, sir, provide processing, research facilities, laboratories, and obviously polytunnels provide growing facilities. So it is a hodgepodge of buildings, but it's a very, very useful hodgepodge of buildings. Senator Le Fondre, I thank you for your comments. Senator Mezek said, we're happy to help you. Neither the Connétable or Minister want to harm your business. They already are, sir. This already is harming the business. And I don't understand. The Connétable, there is no link. So the lease has been broken. That has happened. There currently, therefore, is no lease from the 31st of December, I believe, or maybe the 1st of January. So at the moment, it's really difficult for Jersey Property Holdings to offer a lease knowing that they could not get planning permission for any work on buildings, that the Bowls Club needs planning permission, that the site, according to Part B of the next amendment, must be developed in 3 years into a country park. You try getting a lease amongst all of that. You try running a business amongst all of that. I thank Deputy Wickenden for his comments. Deputy Ash, thank you. Made some excellent points, and I'm pleased he gets it, sir. Thank you to the Connétable St. John. Thank you also to the Connétable Saint Laurent. These are former firefighters. They have served the island, and again, they are serving the island now. But what I hear is a state assembly that doesn't want to help people who serve the island in many, many different ways. Thank you to the Deputy of St. Martin and Senator Moore. Thank you as well, somebody else who seems to understand this and get this. And thank you to the Deputy of Infrastructure for clearing absolutely nothing up whatsoever. So, sir, it was suggested to me in the middle of this debate that I should withdraw my proposition. Not a chance. I want to see exactly where states members lie in terms of wanting a future economy for this island. The country park will be a country park at some point, but in the meantime we're causing immense confusion and difficulty for exactly what we're meant to be supporting. And that saddens me. The lack of consultation by the Environment Minister, the lack of talking to the business, I think says everything about a lot about this Bridging Island plan. It's been rushed. Connétable Saint-Vrelade talked about hodgepodge of buildings. It's a hodgepodge of an island plan, sir. But if I may leave you just with a few thoughts, because obviously I appreciate how frustrated I am. A few facts, in fact. So, Jersey Hemp employs 2 full-time staff, including 2 consultants. Just think about that. Think about your decision. They have 60 shareholders, most of them on island, sir. They're generating millions to go into the economy, sir, already. They have Soil Association organic status for Warwick Farm. People talk about the need for organic farming in this island. They're doing it. They've got it. We protected fields. Deputy Lehegarau brought an amendment last week to protect fields in this area precisely because they're organic. These are organic fields, but apparently they're not needed. Jersey Hemp is in discussions with a world-leading agronomy institute in the UK to assist with plant genetics and the advanced growing and extraction of CBD. They're expecting to take PhD students to research these topics, sir. This institute in the UK is very keen to work with Jersey Hemp because Jersey Hemp have been given the first licence in the British Isles to develop such cultivars. They are punching above their weight. They have capital plans for the site, sir, in order to continue to improve their offerings for both the seed and the product. They also support the island in many different ways in the community. Project Trident, the States of Jersey Police dog training. They let some of their land to the Jersey Tea Company, and they voluntarily host schools. Just last month, Victoria College and St Michael's. They've also hosted Women's Institute groups and similar groups for farm tours, and giving them an understanding of the growing harvesting process they undertake. They have completed the Jersey Soil Carbon Code. This is a world first. But don't let that worry you. It's only a world first from Jersey. Don't worry about that. That's okay. And they expect to have the first fully blockchain verified trade with regard to that carbon farm happening next month to prove the platform. This is an incredible business, sir. And we expect the Infrastructure Minister, the Environment Minister, to ensure that their future is secure, that they'll get a lease together properly, despite the fact that no consultation was done with regard to this island plan. I'd love to say I believe that's going to happen, sir, but I don't think it will. So, sir, I make my amendment, and I hope States members appreciate the importance of their vote. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. May I raise a point of order? I'd be happy to ask for the Speaker to give way otherwise, but otherwise I think it's a valid point of order, sir.
Yes.
Would you give way for... Yeah, it's clarification. It's clarification. So I just wanted to say that I didn't accuse the Deputy of electioneering, sir. And I'd like him to know that and to withdraw that, because I think I wouldn't do that. I think it's anyone's right to bring propositions, and I took... it's not a question of whether I took offence, it's just not correct. And I'd ask if he'd withdraw that.
Deputy, there's a point of clarification.
I accept Deputy Tudier's statement just then, but what I heard was an accusation of electioneering, so it's really hard to withdraw what I understood, and so maybe he didn't say it the way expected, or I heard it wrongly. But thank you.
Thank you. Is the appel called for? The appel has been called for. I invite members to return to their seats. Those joining the meeting via the Teams link are asked to cast their votes in the chat channel, and I ask the greffier to open the voting for members in the chamber. If all members have had the opportunity of casting their votes, then I ask the greffier to close the voting. Announce the amendment has been rejected. 14 votes pour, 30 votes contra.
May we have both sides, please, sir?
Yes.
Those voting for in the chamber, Senator Farnham and Moore, the Connétables of St Bralard and St Mary, the Deputy of St Mary, Deputies Morale, Lehegre, Ayer and Pamplin, And in the chat, Senator Ferguson, the Deputy of St John, Deputy Ash, Deputy of St Peter, the Connétable of Trinity. Those voting contre, in the chamber, Senators Pallett and Mezek, the Connétables of St Helier, Greville, St Peter, St Wan, St Martin, St John and St Clement, and Deputies Martin, Lewis, Tadier, Pinnell, St Martin, St Wan, Young, Guida, Trinity, Ward and Gardner. And in the chat, Senator Lafondre, Deputy Higgins, Deputy Pershar, Deputy Alves, the Connétable of St Saviour, Deputy Wickenden, Senator Valois, Deputy Truscott, Deputy Labby and Senator Gorse voted contre.
Now move to the 31st Amendment lodged by the Connétable of St Helier. And I ask the greffier to read the amendment without subparagraph A.
After the words the Draft Island Plan 2022-25, insert the words except that within Proposal 25 St Helier Country Park. After the first paragraph, there should be inserted the following new paragraph. The Council of Ministers will establish a project board to develop proposals to be included in the next government plan in order that the St Helier Country Park can be delivered during the period covered by the Bridging Island Plan. After the second paragraph, there should be inserted the following new paragraph. The development of the country park will reflect an investigation and report by the Council of Ministers on opportunities to incorporate adjacent areas of countryside into the park in the future, in line with the map attached to and supporting paragraph 7 of Amendment 38 as adopted by the States Assembly on the 21st of June 2011 to the previous island plan.
Connétable of St Helier.
Thank you, sir. I'm grateful to members for not supporting the previous amendment, which allows this to be debated, although I don't intend to avail myself of that luxury of being able to speak as long as I like at the beginning of the debate and as long as I like at the end, because as members will be aware, we have an enormous amount still to get through in the remaining 2 days allocated for this island plan. Equally so, I'm not going to go back over the Deputy's concluding remarks, some of which I could take issue with because we need to move on. All I will say about the lease is that I think while paragraph B could be construed to say that all this must happen in the period covered by the next Bridging Island Plan, I think members have given right across the chamber assurances that the new lease that will be, no doubt, it being prepared by Property Holdings, will have sufficient flexibility for the business currently there to manage, to grow their business and to start looking for alternative premises. Flexibility, I think, and assistance are the key words that we will be hoping that Property Holdings will show as they work with the new business. The current lease, of course, was broken by Property Holdings because of the need to relocate the Jersey Bowling Club. It had nothing to do with the fact that a country park was waiting in the wings. I don't know that there's much else I need to say, sir. The paragraphs are self-explanatory. I look forward, if re-elected, to being hopefully involved in the development of these proposals. Several members spoke really helpfully, and it was great to hear the Planning Minister in particular talk about this vision and what it could deliver for thousands of urban dwellers. And I accept the Constable of St John's point that, of course, people will come down from Zion, which sounds terribly religious, but they will come down from Zion to enjoy the park. So that's all I'm going to say. I commend the amendment to the Assembly and ask for support. Thank you, sir.
Nothing Connétable. Is amendment seconded?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on the amendment? Minister.
Sir, yes, sir. In my comments that I published, I indicated that I wouldn't be supporting paragraph B because I thought there was this issue about whether it could be, the timescale could be achieved. But I absolutely agree with the Connétable now. I said that within the comments of the Infrastructure Minister, I think with a willing, solutions can be found to work with the business to try and find to help them relocation. Flexibility, sir, I think I'm persuaded by that. So on balance, I'm just going to vote for this now. Charlie, sir.
Thank you, Minister. Conor Toberson-Brillard.
Thank you, sir. I referred earlier to the standards achieved by the parish of St Helier Parks and Garden staff, and perhaps less so by the government employees. I'm keen to understand how this will end up in terms of ownership and management. Is it the council's vision that the land be transferred to the parish of St Helier for ongoing maintenance and development of the park, or are we going to end up with a second-grade government-operated park that we see in other parts of the island? I'd appreciate the council's comments, sir.
Thank you, Conor Tarr. Does any other member to speak? Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. I would support country parks. Great idea. But there are some details that we need to know about. And alarm bells always ring for me when I read the Council of Ministers will establish a project board to develop proposals to be included. So if I was being cynical, sir, which of course I wouldn't be, but if I was to be, I would say Jersey Hemp don't have to worry too much, because by the time anything happens, they could farm for another 5 years. And that is one of the things I'm really concerned about, because I've stood here myself and talked about a project that hasn't happened in 3.5 years. And I really have concerns about project boards. Project boards to do what? Well, so let me just say something about the project boards. What they have to do is work out who, sir, is on that project board and what the drivers behind them being on that board are. Because we have so many committees and groups and regeneration groups that are with the same people on that have achieved very little in terms of actually getting something done in St Helier. And it needs to change. And it needs some brave decisions. So, for example, how are people going to travel to this park? Well, somebody needs to actually control and direct Liberty Bus to provide the services and not just say, oh, well, we can't really provide that service because of a myriad of reasons. Otherwise, what you're going to have is this bizarre situation of people having to drive from St Helier to a park constantly and having logjam to go and walk into a green area. And so what this cannot be, and I raise this as a formal concern, sir, I don't know what that doesn't mean anything, but I will raise it in this assembly, so is that this cannot be another excuse just to develop more and more of town, because hey, there's a green space, you just have to drive to it. So that counts as a developer saying, well, I'll tell you what, let us develop this area without any green space, but we'll give you a bit of a donation towards the country park, because then that's our contribution towards development done. I don't like that idea, sir, because what it does, it urbanises St Helier and puts the green space away from the centre of St Helier only. And I will say again, we need to create small areas of green space all over St Helier, and that needs to be developed. Having said that, sir, I do support this, and I support it because we do need spaces. And there are spaces around St Helier, around Valley de Vaux, for example. There are some lovely green spaces which we need to promote more. And in terms of a country park, sir, we need to think very carefully about what we're going to do. I'd like to see some of the areas rewilded so that we get proper biodiversity in that area. We do have monoculture there in so many areas of our island, and we consider that to be, in some way, the greenest approach. It isn't, sir. We need biodiversity, because I've said before, biodiversity and climate change go hand in hand. If you have one and destruction of the other, you end up with a problem. So, sir, I support this. I'm worried about the establishment of a board, and we need to have clear outcomes. And could I ask, sir, the Council of Ministers to publish from day one the drivers and the intentions of this board, and most importantly, and this is something that Deputy Southern will be very proud of me for saying, we want a time scale. We want dates and times from day one where things will be achieved. By this date, we will achieve this. By this date, we will achieve that. Otherwise, it's just another board that people can put on their CVs and never get anything done. So, sir, that's what I would say. I support this, but please, let's have some times and dates to see the outcomes. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Keeder.
So, at first, the Minister for the Environment was not minded to accept Part B and he's changed his mind. But I haven't changed mind, actually. If we want to help Jersey Hemp, we need to give them time to move. We might also have to change the island plan. Now, not this one, because it's pretty much done and certainly there's no time to bring anything to it. But the next one, the next island plan, is only 3 years away. And as much as we've looked at housing in this bridging island plan, maybe we should look at businesses in the next one and start working on that. So to actually set in paragraph B that the project should be delivered before we start talking about the next island plan doesn't give us the time to do any of this. It certainly doesn't give the Jersey Hemp the time to relocate, and it doesn't give us the time to rezone, for example, greenhouses, so that this could happen. So I agree entirely about the project of a park in the north of Saint-Hélier. I think it's a great idea. I think it's a long-term idea. I don't think it's something that we need tomorrow, that we need absolutely urgently, and something indeed that needs to be designed carefully and managed carefully. And it's difficult to see now, but that could actually be brought closer to town by swapping land. Brought closer to town by swapping land. So all this to say that I would urge members to not vote for paragraph B, not give this urgent deadline, but to the contrary, give us the time to do this properly, to give Jersey Hemp the chance to find those accommodations, and probably help them by putting the right things in the next island plan, which is only 3 years away. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Lewis.
Thank you, sir. Regarding the proposed new park, sir, I was hoping that people would both walk and cycle up Valley de Vaux, which would be a wonderful way of getting into the new park. I was quite worried that that I'd upset Deputy Ward because he hadn't mentioned buses for a while, so I'm glad he's thrown that into the mix. Rewilding, sir, we do a lot of rewilding in the departments. In fact, the railway walk is being rewilded. It's not so much manicured as it was, and things are allowed to thrive there. Squirrel population is increasing. I take issue with the Constable of St Brelard, whom I hope I've misheard, when there was something about a second-rate States-run park, which is not true at all. And I would invite the Constable to come and see Howard Davis Park, Coronation Park, Winston Churchill Park, which is in his parish. We have a very, very dedicated team who keep it in excellent condition. Of course, in Coronation Park, we've just had the extremely generous gift of most of a field, which is going to be kept for the people of Jersey. And also in Coronation Park, a new toddler's pool is being constructed. So I refute the allegation that it's second rate. We do have financial pressures, as everybody does, but I say we have a very, very dedicated team of professional gardeners who do look after that, and it's predominantly in-house with that department. Thank you, sir. I'll leave it there.
Thank you, Deputy. Does any other motion speak on this amendment? Yes, Deputy Wickenden.
Thank you, sir. I just thought I'd reiterate what I said in the previous debate, which is I think we need, as very much as Deputy Guida said, we need to make sure that we have appropriate time. We work well with this company that was laid out so well by Deputy Morale about their success and future successes that we can see. So I can't support my constable in this, as I said in the last debate, because I think that setting too strict a timeline is setting either Jersey Hemp to fail or the government to fail. One or the other would just be tragic in the way. So we need to do this carefully. We need to put the right resources on it. But I can't support the kind of timescales that says during the period of the Bridging Island Plan, as much as I totally support the country park.
Thank you, Deputy. Does any other member speak on this amendment? I call upon the Connotab Martin Hoy to reply. Connotab.
Thank you, sir. And I'm grateful to members who spoke and for keeping their speeches short and to the point. Yes, the Constable St Brelade kicked off by handing a brickbat to a group of government staff, and I agree with the Minister. I think it's unfair. I think all of our staff who work in inclement weather to keep our parks and gardens and our streets well maintained and repaired do a great job. And of course, at the same time, I was delighted by the particular bouquet that the Constable of St Brelade handed to Parish of St Helier Parks and Gardens staff. I'm not going to send that back. But he's quite right. You know, issues like maintenance, ownership, all that sort of thing has to be sorted out. But that's the whole point of the project board, to tackle issues like that. I certainly aren't able to enlighten members about the detail. I mean, let's face it, this has only been an idea for the last 11 years. It hasn't had a chance to move anywhere because, and here I present a bouquet to the planning minister, previous ministers, planning ministers, have simply had no interest in progressing the idea. So that's why there isn't the detail. Deputy Ward, I mean, he shouldn't perhaps be as, I won't say impatient, but he certainly sometimes sounds very frustrated by the slow progress of government and of this assembly in fulfilling its wishes. I know he has had certain projects that appear to be left in the long grass, but I would say this to him, that he has achieved an enormous amount. It's hard to believe that he's still in his first term as deputy. Certainly in terms of climate change, an enormous project to have brought to this assembly, and how quickly government has responded to his proposition and has moved us into almost a new world of thinking about climate change. So I would encourage him to be positive. In a few months' time, we're going to have a new government. We already have a new chief executive for that government. Be positive. We're going to have a project board that is going to really get this project moving, and I'm really confident about that. We had a few speeches which were, it seems to me, somewhat complacent. Deputy Guida believes that we probably can't do anything in the next 3 years, so let's put it in the next island plan. That means that I have to write my proposition and put it in 3 island plans before anything happens. And I say to the deputy, I've talked about flexibility, and there has to be goodwill on both sides in negotiating the lease for the current tenants. But I think 3 island plans is just a bit slow. And I will probably start to sound like Deputy Ward. I believe that urban residents need access to the countryside, just as St Brelade and Western Parishes residents have access to Lake Creux. And I don't think it's right to say we're going to do nothing to encourage the current tenants to look for somewhere till the next island plan. And so I don't accept that logic, and I'm sorry that Deputy Wickenden is of a similar view. I thank Deputy Lewis for his intervention. He does indeed manage and run and fund some wonderful parks in the island, unlike in St Helier, which are funded by the parish of St Helier, but we won't go there today. But I do agree with him that both his staff and mine do a cracking job in keeping this island attractive for residents and visitors alike. So I don't propose to separate the amendments. I believe they go together, and I ask members to support the amendment. Thank you, sir.
Do you call for the appel, Conatable?
Yes, please, sir.
Thank you. The appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. Those joining the meeting via the Teams link are invited to cast their votes in the chat channel, and I ask the greffier to open the voting for members in the chamber. 4 members have had the opportunity of casting their votes. Then I ask the greffier to close the voting. And I can announce that the amendment has been adopted. 33 votes pour and 9 votes contre.
Can we have the nine, please, sir?
Yes.
Those voting contre, Senator Valois, the Deputy of St John, Deputy Wickenden, Deputy of St Peter, Deputy Ash, Senator Ferguson, Senator Moore, Deputy Guida, and the Deputy of Trinity.
Next is the 33rd amendment lodged by the Connétable of St John, and I ask the greffier to read the amendment.
After the words "the Draft Island Plan 2022-25," insert the words "except that in policy CI6, provision and enhancement of open space, the following amendment should be made, with the plan further amended in such respects as may be necessary consequent upon their adoption." A. In the 4th paragraph, after the words "provision of new," there should be inserted the words "or enhanced." And B. In the 5th paragraph, after the words 3 Granvaux Reservoir and Valley, as defined by policy CI9, countryside access and awareness, there should be inserted the words 4 Field J371, La Rue Gombrette, St John, 0.7 hectares, 3.89 verges. C. The Draft Island Plan 2022-25 be further amended in such respects as may be necessary consequent upon the adoption of A and B.
Connétable of St John.
Thank you, sir. So, in starting, I'd just like to take members on a quick whistle-stop tour of the island. We won't be in the planning bus or even a party bus, but if they could bear with me, if we could start in St Juan's, sir. Here they have a great community facility right next to the parish hall, a green area, a place where young and old alike can meet and relax. Nearby St Peter's has its green just behind the church, adjacent to the community centre, and we heard earlier in the debate about the importance of providing a new green or village green on the proposed Ville de Manoir development. Sir St Lawrence, as we heard earlier this morning, has their excellent memorial garden that fits seamlessly into the heart of their village and is so well used, described earlier as an oasis. I could go on to talk about green facilities next to Trinity Parish Hall and St Martin's Public Hall and the park area in Patio Road, but I'm sure members are getting the picture. So the parish of St John is asking for something similar, inasmuch as it's our aspiration to have a recreational area in the heart of the parish. For those members who were able to attend the parish hall ahead of this debate, they may have seen a sketch of the meadow dated 1997. Yes, sir, 25 years the parish has been looking to get something done on this area of land outside the parish hall and the parish school. In May of last year, a plan for a memorial garden and some 57 car parking spaces was recommended for approval by the planning department. However, it was rejected by the planning committee after a tied vote. At that time, sir, I was very disappointed. However, we've had time to reflect, and we'll be coming back with revised plans that will have far more emphasis on the park and less on the car. Albeit, there will still be a requirement for some parking in the southeast corner. The Jersey Farmers Union say the field is category 3, less important to agriculture, number 11 on their table. The reality is that the field is only used for occasional grazing. We are looking at a third of the land, the eastern area closest to the school, with the rest of the field remaining as it is. In answer to written question 40, 2022, the Education Minister confirmed that only 3 schools have no parking provision and 1 school has 3 spaces. Of these 3, St Mary's offers staff parking in the new car park behind the church, Trinity Teachers Park opposite the school, in the meadow at the football pitch. In St John's, sir, we still have staff cars parking in the active playground. The remaining cars are parked in the parish short-term spaces, parking for over 8 hours in a 5-hour space, removing the ability of parents to use these spaces to pick up and drop off, or for anyone attending the parish hall, shops or church to access these public spaces. I don't know what or even if there is a risk assessment for staff cars to be parked in a school playground. It is certainly not ideal for the children who play in the playground, and it's not ideal for the staff whose cars are in danger of getting damaged. Members will be surprised to know that currently the school only has 38% of the recommended outdoor space for a primary school, and some of this space is being used for parking of staff cars. Thanks to the hard work of my predecessor and our former Deputy Senator Volwar, we're now in the process of providing a new playing field. However, even with this, there will be a deficit of some 24% of outdoor space, and that includes the area currently being used for staff parking. We are working with both SIPES and IHE to find solutions that would see us only requiring about 16 spaces on our land in the southeast corner of the field. This will leave far more space for recreation than the previous plan. The school would like a natural area for a forest school, and we would also like to create a memorial garden for people to walk around and relax in. Sir St John has a new road safety panel that's looking at ways to make it easier to walk and cycle to and from the village. Working with the team at IHE, we're hoping to introduce crossings from Maisel-le-Vacant to the precinct and from the precinct to the parish hall and school. We've seen a significant increase in the amount of walkers using the North Road since the pavement was reinstated to its full width, and we believe if we provide the facilities in and around the village, we'll see more walkers and cyclists in this area. One of the key recommendations from the Committee Rural's work back in 2011 was to encourage safe routes to school. Here we are 11 years later and we haven't made much progress. I look forward to seeing residents of our sheltered housing and other parishioners walking safely around the village and taking in a lap of the memorial garden as part of their walk, perhaps stopping for a while to admire the gardens and the church in the background. Parents sitting in the garden waiting for their children to finish school and children playing with their friends at the end of the school day. At the planning committee, much was said about the loss of the view of the church. The reality is the hedge could be planted on the southern boundary, and in fact there is a hedge in parts along Rue de Gombret already. This proposal would be to provide green open space for the parish and the island, with all staff cars moved from both the playground and parking on the road. This would provide for much safer drop-off and pick-up arrangements for parents and children. The proposed road improvements were supported by the Highway Authority, and the scheme had been supported by 116 votes for and 3 against at a previous parish assembly. Our plans for a forest school area have also been popular. We're proposing to plant a small wooded area that could be used by the school. This would be linked to the memorial garden, and the school would also be able to use the larger area during the school day, with parents and families encouraged to use it at the end of the school day and clearly throughout the week. Our parish climate group are keen for us to have wildflowers in a sustainable planting scheme rather than an over-manicured area, and this will encourage local wildlife, particularly insects and birds. Page 16 of the Bridge and Island Plan talks about the common strategic policy to put children first. And if I can quote from the 3rd bullet point, maintaining and creating play, open and green space that serves the needs of children, present and future, and will contribute to helping children be safe, active, social and imaginative. It goes on to say, access to high quality and safe places for children and young people to play is critical to the development of physical, emotional, social and cognitive skills that they need to thrive. The Connétable St Saviour earlier this week explained the benefits of outdoor learning from her experience opposite the parish hall at St Saviour. As the Connétable of St Lawrence said when talking about the 92nd Amendment, about her time on the planning committee, the committee are obliged to determine based on policies. Sir, the site is designated protected open space. I'm asking members to support the parish by agreeing the amendment to make it accessible open space for all the community, and particularly the children and families who attend our local school. This site is supported by parents, our Committee Rural, the Parish Climate Group, former constables, members of the municipality and the Parish Assembly. I ask the members to listen to those local voices and vote for the rezoning of this land today ahead of any future planning application. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Connétable. Is the amendment seconded? Yes. Thank you. Connétable St. 1.
Thank you, sir. And it's a pleasure to follow my neighbouring constable, well, nearly neighbouring anyway. My geography's a bit wonky this morning. I can only endorse his comments. I'm glad that produced a bit of amusement on what's been a rather turgid morning so far. And I apologise once again for my geography problems, but living in St Wands, it's a long way from anywhere else, and we get lost easily. I'm delighted to follow my fellow constable, and I can only endorse his comments because, as he referred himself, we have exactly what he's after. We have a lovely park area right in the middle of the parish, opposite the shops, and which the residents for our homes, our sheltered homes, use on a regular basis to do exactly what he is proposing his residents do, to get some exercise in a safe place and in a pleasant spot. And there's lots of park benches for them to sit down when they rest and feel tired. Having a central green spot like that in the middle of the parish is an ideal thing to have, and I commend him for the work that he's done to bring it this far. And I would just also, I know that this is an agricultural field, but I would just remind members that the Jersey Farmers Union have said that it is less important to agriculture, so they are not as concerned as perhaps we have been about other greenfields going. And if we agree this today, in my view, it is an excellent use of a greenfield because it will be used by the community, for the community, and it will provide, I don't know if anyone's ever tried to park at St John's on a busy weekday when the school's in operation, but frankly, you're better off trying to walk or take a bike because it's nearly impossible, frankly. So it will provide them with parking, it will provide an excellent park facility, and it certainly has my full and wholehearted support, and I shall be supporting this proposition.
Thank you, Connétable. Minister of the Environment.
Thank you, sir. I think, the constable makes a very good argument. There's no question about it. And the principle, as the villages develop and so on, and we've approved zonings, of having accessible open space is absolutely a really important one. And there are opportunities there. I think, though, my job as Environment Minister in a plan, I think, is to draw your attention to what some people might regard as a number of planning technicalities. But I do think it's important in these matters that we are consistent in our approach as we go through the various propositions. Where, as the Council explained, this site is actually in the built area. And of course, that's why it has to have protected open space designation. So it's a site adjacent to where the parish hall is. And so that's the kind of starting point. Now, what we have here, it may seem a technicality, is to bring it into the category of what's called an enhanced open space, which means that we do things in there which are new, provide it, is an open sort of open area, open access area, and the sort of things that are going to go on there. It is a change of use. So the procedure would normally be, it's a planning application. Now, a planning application, the planning committee perfectly, this to me is absolutely bang on a planning committee job. They would need to weigh the loss of agriculture against the benefits that are obviously very, very clear here in providing, and it depends how it's done. There is history, of course, in the past of getting a rejection, although it was, in fact, supported by the officers. I think 24th of June that took place. But having looked at the detail of that scheme, I think, it includes all sorts of other things, and moving the cenotaph and all sorts of stuff So there's a lot of differences between that one and what we are talking about here. So I don't want to argue against the principles of doing this, but I think my view is that the island plan as it is and the policies we've got can actually deal with this through the planning committee. And we've been quite harsh on a number of other members who came forward, you know, being very critical of them, saying, here's what's this kind of a planning application. And the honest truth, this is kind of the same category. But I'm not going to argue against this. It sounds a very well-intentioned proposal. But is it right to be changing the island plan at this point without it going through that proper process? Because it will, the new area, I'll be very surprised if it doesn't include an element of car parking. The Conitab, the previous application that failed included 57 spaces, I think, from what I can see. If I get that wrong, I apologise. So obviously that will be a new. The Conitab has said that they're having a rethink. They're going to change the way they're going to lay it out. And of course, he did make reference. This is not part. You know, he did mention about the school and the playing field and so on. Just to clear that up for members, that is not part of the proposition we're discussing now, to the change to the plan, but I did sign off on a planning application from an inspector's report allowing development of land south of the village on the basis with a planning obligation agreement to provide a school playing field next door for St John's School, so the children could have what they've been deprived of for many, many years. I did that, have to say, in anticipation that you would zone that site today, and I'm very, very pleased. So far I did that, I took a risk, but there we are. I think it was the right thing to do because there are real changes ahead. So I think procedurally, sir, I'm not keen to vote against it, but I think I'm going to probably abstain. But I do think members should think consistency here. We've been very hard on other members and saying, this is really a planning application, doesn't need to go into the plan. The intentions are fine, but personally, I don't like the idea of being hard on other members and then soft on the Conitab, not because I like him, but I think his proposal is sound. And I'd be very surprised if there's any argument if he gets the design of it right. I'd be very surprised if there's arguments that don't persuade the planning committee, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy St Martin.
Thank you, sir. And I was a member of the planning committee that who voted against the scheme that's been discussed and the one we have in front of us here. And my very good friend, the Constable of St John, has me now in a very painful position, sir, because I find myself well and truly on the horns of a dilemma. Do I maintain my previous view, or do I change my mind and go with the Constable? I've said publicly on a number of occasions for many years, sir, there's some views in Jersey, interior views, which I regard as iconic. There's a view at the whole of fields going up to the hinterland, alongside the whole hill, and there's a view at St John's where you get to the church and you look southwest across a grass field, usually full of brown cows, and that is one of my iconic views as I drive around the island, one that I've always been keen to protect. I'm encouraged by the Constable's use of the words green open space, and I hope very much that he will take on board the views of the panel that rejected the last scheme. But certainly in my parish, sir, we have the most fantastic village green, which I believe is the envy of others and one I'm hugely proud of, and I don't want to do anything that stops other parishes creating similar facilities, although these might be slightly different. So I agree with the Environment Minister, this is really another planning application, but bring it on. Let's hope it's better than the last one, and let's hope the Planning Committee, you wholeheartedly back it and move forward. So the Constable gets my support today, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy St John.
Thank you, sir. I believe that the Conitab of St John has outlined most of the detail of this, so I'm going to keep my contribution short. So St John is woefully short of community space at the heart of the village. There's only one outdoor play space for children, and that is within the churchyard. In 2019, a proposal to create a landscaped enhanced parking area within Field 371 was rejected by the Planning Committee. So this is not the same proposition. This proposition seeks to confine additional parking to a restricted area in the southeast corner of the field. So the main thrust of this amendment is to increase the available green amenity space within the heart of our village, to give children and families the opportunity to benefit from an enhanced natural environment, including the creation of a wooded area that would be available to the whole village, but more especially to the village school that is on the eastern side of this field. In addition, it is proposed to create a memorial garden in the northeast corner of the field that would not obscure views of the church across the field, across field 371, which had been the basis for objections to the previous proposal. Sir, the amendment affects less than half the field, which is, and I stand corrected there, having listened to the Conitard, a third of the field, which is in the ownership of the Greenwood Trust, a parish housing association. Currently, there is nothing on the site that would make it attractive to children, families, and the wider population of the parish. The intention is to create a focused green area that will be of interest as an educational, recreational, and social amenity. Sir, I urge members to vote for this amendment, an amendment that will enable the creation of natural amenity space, the like of which other parishes have enjoyed for many, many years. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Ward.
Thank you, sir. It strikes me, and perhaps the Conitard can correct me if I'm wrong, that what we're doing here is taking a green field and turning it into a different green field. And that's fine. That's great, in a wooded area. The only thing I would say is there is a point here which says an element of parking. And so what are we 8 days in, 9 days in? I've lost track. I can't believe it hasn't been said before, but I have to say it now. As long as we're not going to take Paradise and put up a parking lot, then I can support this, sir. Because I can't believe it hasn't been said before, sir, but it's taken this long, but let's say it. Let's get in there, put it on the Hansard. So it's a good idea, and it makes space for children to play. And I'm absolutely for that, and that's what we need. We need that everywhere. And a wooded area, think carefully about the wooded area, what you plant. Please consult with some groups in terms of biodiversity and what you can do there, because there's so much you can do if you're planting new. And so I can see no reason not to support this, but I would like the Constable just to reassure me in regards to parking, because if you're losing a bit of a field just for cars, then perhaps there's a better way to do it. But there we go. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Hegarah.
So I'd like to say guilty as charged, because I'm the second member of the planning committee that refused the Constable of St John's application for this to be turned into a space. I, like the Deputy of St Martin, was concerned about the vista. You've got a Category 1 or Grade 1 listed building as in the church. But for me, like Deputy Ward, I was exceptionally concerned about the level of parking, because I too don't want to be turning what was a paradise space, as he calls it, into a parking lot. So I will support the the Constable of St John, because it is green space for green space. However, if it comes to me in the future, if I'm still here, if I was on the planning committee, I would be very, very interested to see what comes before me. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Gardner.
Thank you, sir. And I'm wholeheartedly supporting the Constable play areas. I have an amendment around play areas, community use, and this is the right thing to secure a site within the Bridging Island plan. What prompted me to speak, there were comments from the Environment Minister that we need to treat everybody equally. And from my understanding, when we had a request to rezone in the field for other than homes, for needs across the island, and we didn't have full consultation and understanding how it will work across the island, I didn't feel comfortable to support it. It's not because it needs to go to the planning application because we need to understand what are the needs across the island. Saying this, yesterday I did supported cricket because it's a very specific field for very specific reason for sports, financed by the private, and it will be helping on specific remit for specific field. And this is the reason, yes, everything needs to go through planning application. And this field will need to go through the planning application, a trust planning application process. And the most important vote today is to secure this field for the community use for playing area. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Conor St Martin.
Thank you, sir. And in the words of Joni Mitchell, I don't think that the Constable of St John wants to pave over a paradise and turn it into a parking lot. I think, on the contrary, the Constable wishes to take a field that's quite low grade and turn it into a paradise for his parishioners. And I'm delighted to support my fellow Constable. We in St Martin have the most wonderful village green, which I'm extremely proud of, and it's enjoyed by young and old alike. It's lovely to see small children learning to ride their bikes on the path surrounding the green, happy dogs and owners going for walks at all time of day and night, families enjoying picnics on the green, large parish events such as the bonfire night being enjoyed on the green by islanders in general. And I've lost my notes, but during lockdown we had socially distanced exercise classes which could still take place because they use the space outside. We've got school children carrying out projects on the green, and I think I've made my point. I'm a great fan of green spaces in the heart of the community, and I'm 100% in support of the Constable. And why should we deny the parishioners of St John a wonderful facility which is enjoyed in so many other parishes? Thank you.
Thank you, Conor Tarb. Conor Tarb of Trinity.
Thank you, sir. I'll be brief and say I wish to endorse the aims and objectives of the Constable with this one. And I speak as one of the members of the Planning Committee who supported their previous application, and I was encouraged to do so particularly by the impassioned plea from the headmistress of St John's Primary School, who outlined that the staff at the moment have to park in the children's playground, which to me is both ridiculous and must be a health and safety issue. I think this is a wonderful scheme and improves on the one that I would previously have approved, so I'm more than happy to give it my support. Thank you.
Thank you, Conor Tarb. Conor Tarb of St Mary.
Thank you, sir. I will be quick. I'm very envious of my neighbour, the Constable of St John. They have land, money, and people who want to have very important amenities in their parish. Surely it's the people who live there who know best. We should not deny them that opportunity. He has my support. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Conor Tarb. Deputy Tadeo.
Thank you, sir. I was also concerned about putting a parking spaces on this green field initially, and I thought to myself, I want a reassurance from the Constable that it won't end up being filled up with white vans. But I think more importantly, what I certainly wouldn't want to see is that parking space, those spaces being filled up with big yellow taxis. So we often quote from the greats in this assembly. I know that Deputy Ash likes to quote Churchill. But we often don't hear from the wise words of the more modern philosopher, Alan Partridge, sir, who I think he quite capably deconstructs the comments of Joni Mitchell when she talks about paving paradise. He says that she complains that they paved paradise to put up a parking lot. But he says it's a measure which actually would have alleviated traffic congestion on the outskirts of paradise, something which Joni singularly fails to point out, perhaps because it doesn't quite fit with her blinkered view of the world. Nonetheless, nice song. And I think this really encapsulates the issue we've got here, is that this is very much a moderate proposal. It's not putting up a parking lot next to the school, but it is trying to find a green field and keeping it as a green field with the inclusion of some parking spaces. And it will allow people from the area who need to drive in for whatever reason and who are visiting the school to maybe park up and then go for a walk around there. I do have some serious a serious question or two about the nature of the parking. So we've been told it's going to be roughly a 1/3, 2/3 split with the 1/3 of parking. Maybe the Constable can clarify exactly what's going on there. Can he clarify whether it's going to be tarmac or a hogging type material? And whilst hogging seems quite appealing, of course the maintenance of it is then critical. I think in particular of the stretch of road that goes up to La Cimetière de Saint-Brelard or de Kenve, which is often, and we've had complaints before about the holes that get made very easily, and then of course it gets filled up with water. I hope that won't be the case there, but clearly you have a choice there to make. Do you make it look natural, which is then going to have to be maintained, and can you give an assurance that it would be maintained if that's the preference? And just in terms of joining up the parish in terms of the walking, it's fine to say that there'll be some kind of amenity park. If he doesn't mind me saying it, the whole of St John's can be viewed as a park if you want to. And I think one of the challenges that we need to get to grips with, perhaps as a whole island, especially along the whole north, is about rights of way, because I think we can't simply just take fields over all the time and then convert them into community use. I think there is a way for agriculture to coexist, especially along the north coastal park, if that's what it's going to be, where we have people having the right of way to access fields, to get to the north coast, to get off the roads, and to really join up not just the parish but the whole of the northern routes.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Wickenden.
Thank you, sir. I think I again want to commend the constable and former constables and the staff that have all worked with the community to kind of talk about a vision for St John's that they can all agree on. And this is just another extension of the other good work that's been going on. I just want to say, as Education Minister, yeah, there'll be some parking, but if we can clear out that area where teachers park within the school, we're just giving children more of an area, a safe space to run around without any cars in the way, which has got to be a good thing. I agree with Deputy Tadier that what's on the ground, the parking, if there is parking there, is important, but I'm sure that will be dealt with at a planning committee. I was lucky enough, as I've been trying to go around all the schools, as many as I can while I'm the Education and Children's Minister. So I went to Grooville not so long ago, at Grooville Primary School, and they've got a beautiful outdoor forest classroom and marsh area, and it was a delight to see what was possibly, when I was there, some of the happiest and muddiest children I've ever seen in my life, running along with big grins on their face after going out in the classroom and running around in the mud. Though I don't know if the parents who didn't read the letter and realise that it was a muddy day for their children appreciated the muddy school uniforms. But it was a delight to see. You could see the children really appreciate it. The teachers appreciate it, and it's going to be a good upbringing and good education for the children of the school. And I heartily, as the Education Minister, support what we're doing. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Deputy Higgins.
Thank you, sir. And I'm going to be exceptionally brief, but I fully support what the Constable is putting forward. And I just really want to refer to what Deputy Young mentioned. He mentioned about consistency. I think there's an important difference between this proposal, which we're talking about, it's an island plan rather than a planning application, is that it's the public realm. It's the parish for the benefit of the parish. Whereas the earlier propositions were all being brought forward, although they may have some benefit to the community, were being brought forward by private individuals. That's all I have to say. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? In that case, I call upon the Connotab to reply. Connotab.
Thank you, sir, and can I thank members who contributed to the debate. So, starting with the Planning Minister, he asked for consistency, and that's what I'm here to do, sir, ask for consistency. I'm hoping that my tour at the start of my speech will demonstrate that we're asking for a level playing field, and we thank him for passing our playing field. Work on that is due to start shortly. the parish has spent thousands and thousands of pounds on architects' fees to date, and rezoning of this land today should make any subsequent application easier for the planning committee to come to a decision if the land is zoned in the way that we're requesting. I would remind him also of his support at the start of the debate about community planning, and that this scheme has got the community's support. Moving the Senate off, I don't think that will be necessary, sir, with the scheme. We really want to do the best we can, and even with that playing field that has been approved, the school will still be some 24% short on recommended outdoor space. So the Constable of St. Juan, I thank him for his comments, and I really would like to be able to emulate what has been achieved in St. Juan's, and if we can help him with his geography, sir, we're always available. This is the only opportunity, going back to the plans, but this is the only opportunity we as members have of amending the Bridging Island plan. So this is why I'm asking members to support this. This is not a planning application. The planning application will come back later. I thank the Deputy of St Martin. I hope that he could change his mind. In terms of the view, sir, hopefully it will be enhanced. It will be, cows will still be able to graze on 2/3 of the field, and I hope that what we create there, if we don't move the Senate off, I think it will be an enhanced view rather than detracting from the view. The Deputy of St John, I thank him for his support and comments, because he's also a member of the Committee Rural, which I spoke about last week. He also spoke about the views of the church, and actually we hope to enhance the views of the church, sir. Members may remember when you approached St John from the west not that long ago, you could see a beautiful view of St John's Church, but unfortunately those views have been obscured by the overgrowth, and we're trying to deal with IHE to take on the land near the church so we can manage that and actually improve the view, not detract. Deputy Ward spoke about the parking being 1/3 of the original plan. I'm sure that Deputy Ward, more than probably anyone in this assembly, would appreciate how wrong it is that cars are parked in an active playground. It is totally wrong in 2022 that happens today, sir, and tomorrow and next week. And in terms of the trees, yes, we are taking on advice on that. We have got ecologists on our group. We've got arboriculturists working with us, and we want to do the very, very best. I thank Deputy Lehegra. Actually, we are going to benefit from the decision to reject the original plan, sir, because hindsight being a wonderful thing, it's allowed us to go back, reflect, and I think we'll come back with a much better scheme in the future. I thank Deputy Gardner for her support, and yes, we will trust the planning application process, but the planning application process will be made easier if state members will support the rezoning. I'm delighted that my colleague, the Constable of St Martin's, realises that St John's is paradise, so that's terrific. I've also enjoyed the green at St Martin's, and we hope to take lessons from all of the other parishes where this has been done. The Constable of Trinity, I thank him for his support not only today but at the original planning meeting, and I would endorse the comments he made about the head teacher of St John's School, who's passionate about not only her children at the school but the facilities that she's able to provide, and she's fully supportive of what we're trying to achieve here. To my colleague to my left, the Constable of St Mary's, I should tell him that we've always got nice properties available in St John. He'd be very welcome to come across the border. Deputy Tadier spoke about white vans and taxis. The parking that we're looking to create will actually be managed with a gate, and we're looking to restrict the parking there, but for it to be available at weekends and when we've got events on out of hours. I'll have to relent to his knowledge on Alan Partridge quotes, though, sir. He spoke about the 1/3, 2/3 split. There's only going to be around 20 parking spaces in the southeast corner on our land, so that's far less than a third. The 1/3 and 2/3 split is of the actual whole field. We own the bottom third. And the detailed design will actually be in the planning application. It's not going to be discussed today, but I take the point about the gravel. It may be cheaper, but in the long term, I think it's a fool's economy. We want to do what's very best for it. The Parish Road Safety Panel are looking at safe routes, not just in and around the village. That's where we're starting our work, but we're looking at the whole parish, so we want to make life easier. I thank Deputy Wickenden for his comments, and I would also add my support. He commented on the work that's been done in the parish. I mentioned them last week, but the Committee Rural have been working for the last 2.5 years, sir, on this, and I would like to reiterate my thanks to them for their hard work. And I know that Deputy Wiggins has been to Grooville, but I actually spent 2 years working at a local school which had an amazing outdoor space. Now, we won't be able to replicate that, sir, but I saw the benefits of outdoor learning firsthand, and I hope to see that carry on. And Deputy Higgins is right. This is a parish development for parishioners, but also for islanders, because everybody would be very welcome to come and use the space in the future. And with that, sir, I ask for the appel. Thank you.
Clarification, please, sir, if I may.
Yes, will you accept a request for clarification?
Yes, sir.
Yes, Minister.
Thank you. The CONITAB spoke of rezoning of the area. Would the CONITAB accept that the proposition, if adopted, has the effect of adding it to the list of the 3 sites to those safeguarded for the provisions of new open space where and their development for other purposes would not be supported? So would the CONITAB accept that is the actual fact of this, and it not as rezoning? Would he accept that?
Yes, I do, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. The appel has been called for. I invite members to return to their seats. Those joining the meeting via the Teams link may cast their votes in the chat channel. And I ask the greffier to open the voting for members in the chamber. All members have the opportunity of casting their votes. Then I ask the greffier to close the voting. I can announce that the amendment has been adopted. 42 votes pour, 2 abstentions and no votes contre.
Sir, may I thank members for their support. Thank you.
Thank you. Now move on to the 11th amendment, lodged by the CONITAB of St. One. And ask the greffier to read the amendment.
After the words the Draft Island Plan 2022 to 25, insert the words, except that A, the designation of Field 630 St. One as protected open space, as referenced on page 241 of the plan, be removed, with the designation as built-up area retained. B, the Draft Island Plan 2022 to 25 be further amended in such respects as may be necessary consequent upon the adoption of A. C, the Draft Bridging Island Plan Proposals Map Part A planning zones be amended to reflect the adoption of A.
CONITAB of St. One.
Thank you, sir. So this is a slightly unusual proposition, and hopefully one that won't detain us for too long. The issue that we're being asked to consider today is to rezone a brownfield in my parish, and rezone it as a green field zone. And essentially, the argument is to create a green lung at the centre of St. One's village. However, sir, this overlooks a number of factors unique to St. One. If you look at a map of the parish, you'll see that the village is an island of housing in a sea of green fields. We are indeed blessed in this respect, and one has only to walk for 5 minutes down one of our lanes from the village to find oneself in the middle of the countryside. So, furthermore, the delights of St. One's Bay, Grevdalec, and the North Coast cliff-top walks are in reach on foot or on a short cycle or car ride. Slightly further away are the wide open spaces of Les Landes with wonderful views and walks. In the Minister's response, it is argued that St One's compares badly with other parishes for open space. But in real terms, and given my earlier comments, I think we do well in terms of space which is actually usable by our parishioners. As the Constable of John referred to in the previous proposition, our village green is an excellent facility. It has a bandstand, a pétanque pitch, children's play area, plentiful seating, and a green space. And as I mentioned earlier, it's heavily used on most days, weather permitting. It has a children's play area. The village also benefits from a large play area to the north, which is extensively used as a football playing field by younger parishioners, and a small area in the village itself. And sir, a short walk down Rue de Marais, one that we discussed earlier in this debate, and I bring to mind cows and special sites of special interest, this is better known as Hydrangea Avenue. You will find a beautiful shady area with seating beneath the boughs of the Governor's Oak. And if members refer to my comments paper, they'll see a picture of that area, which is indeed lovely, even though it's taken on a rather bad day weather. On the other hand, Field 630 has a busy main road down one side and a very busy entrance to the village shopping area at the top end of the field, thus making it a relatively noisy location, and certainly not safe for children to access or play unsupervised. Also, given the proximity of the village green and its facilities, the use of this field by the parish is really and realistically only confined as an overflow car park, which we have to maintain. So I think also the views and status of the owner of the land need to be considered. The land is rectoral land and originally gifted to the church to fund running expenses of the rectory. Sadly nowadays, land rentals have declined to next to nothing. The land is not really large enough for any agricultural use in any case, and indeed the Jersey Farmers Union made no comment about this field. However, the site is located close to the heart of the village and is perfectly suited to build units of sheltered accommodation, and indeed before the island plan debate, plans were drawn up in this respect. But they've been put on hold pending the outcome of this debate. So in summary, the rezoning of the land as protected open space, in fact, is not going to add to the village amenities, as the location of this plot is next door to a busy car park, and the main road does not lend itself to be called a restful green lung. On the other hand, keeping the space zoned as part of the built-up area is an accurate designation, and following the loss of fields 622 and 623 earlier this year, this week, this area remains the parish's only sure and viable option to develop much-needed sheltered housing in the next 5 years. And as I mentioned in the earlier debate, we can demonstrate the demand for this, as we have 167 islanders on our waiting list. And the parish has the funds for this development, including a bequest, which, if not used, could possibly disappear. So, sir, I urge members to support this amendment and to retain the option with the parish to do what it likes with this particular bit of land. Thank you, sir, and I make the amendment.
Thank you, Conatable. Is the amendment seconded? Yes, sir. Thank you. Does any member wish to speak on the amendment? Yes, Minister.
Sir, I'll be quite blunt on this. This is not a question of me abstaining. I'm absolutely opposed to this. All the evidence is, and I've carefully read the Conitable's proposal, more or less I think seeks to, I'll be honest, discredit the process that led to this site being put forward as a protected open space. Whereas there's 40 odd pages of evidence there which is completely contrary to what's contained in the report. Refers to this was all done through the 2011 island plan, etc. Well, we've updated that evidence base, and what the findings are is that St One's, compared with its neighbours, St Mary, St John, St Martin, Trinity, St Peter, Lawrence, has got the lowest level of protected open space within the village area. I think I may have misheard, but I thought the Conatable a few moments ago argued in favour of open space within other parts, other parishes. So it's really odd. Now, so why do we have protected open space? And this was the space we discussed at St John. That that was protected open space. Now you've added a new aspiration to be able to increase and change its use. But it's there to protect it. And in this case, it's needed. Because I believe there is an aspiration in the parish to build on this land. 8 homes. Now, those of you who know this piece of land there, I'm sorry, I'm seeing a change. Maybe I've got the numbers on the papers I've said, but there's an aspiration to build on it. And it does strike me being the very sort of tight centre of St. Juan's village. Does need that room to breathe. It acts as a useful little breathing space. And I know that, when we all go, maybe I shouldn't bring this in, but I will, when we all go to the book sales at St. Juan's Parish Hall, or we go to any events that have, which St. Juan's Parish, being an active parish, has, where do they put their overflow parking? I mean, okay, that's not an ideal use, but it's a temporary use. Most of the time it acts as this protected open space that gives, adds to the character. And, I'm really surprised at this because the evidence base that I spoke of earlier, and I'm looking here, page 44 to 46, and it reports the very high level of support for maintaining this within the community. So I'm really struggling with this. And of course, that's the evidence that came out of the planning inquiry too, that there is a high level support for the community. So maybe, please, Brother Conitard, maybe you might hear from the deputy to tell us whether this is something that the community really want to do, to give up this open space. Now, I think that Conitard picked up a phrase there. He says it stops it ever from being developed. Well, no, it doesn't. The planning system, as we had all these debates, allows exceptions. But people have to make their case. The planning system would allow a piece, if you made a decent enough case, to be able to develop a protected open space, but you really need to have to go up to pass those bars that policy sets, and not on the basis that you think it's something, well, there's an opportunity, we'll do it. And so I think, what I would ask members, to actually to take away an area of public open space. I can't recall this coming up before. I mean, we've had this St. John, I don't think we're taking it away. I think what we're trying to do is to enable its use more effectively. And I think that's what's happened in other parishes. But here, if you took it away entirely, I think you'd be left. And of course, what would be the effect on neighbouring properties if we took this away? Neighbouring properties to the north and the east. And the planning inspector said representations received. And I'm sorry, I don't know the number of them. And I might get a note. It'd be too late then. During the consultation, show that the proposed open space designation has a widespread support. And that the inspectors say the Ministry of Environment has made a sound case for the retention. So I'm sorry, I'm going to absolutely not support this.
Thank you, Minister. Deputy St. Juan.
Thank you, sir. And this is an issue on which the Deputy of St. Juan is not in agreement with the Constable of St. Juan, and puts a deputy in a difficult position, perhaps, but we are, I regret to say, at very opposite ends of the spectrum. I've grown up in St. Juan's and lived there for most of my life, and I remember as a child, the village at St. Juan's was a small cluster of houses strung along the main road. And since then, the parish and others have developed village development schemes, homes for the elderly, and of course there's been general development all around, so that we've now got that centre, which is a very pleasant village. I'm very proud of it. I'm proud of the fact that we've housed parishioners and others in pleasant homes, and we've got a good community, but it has become an urbanised community, a small urban community. And we've developed a village green, which is very pleasant. It's a formally laid out area. It contains a play area, a bandstand, pétanque pitch, ornamental features. And we have this one other open area, this field, right in the heart of the village, which has no specific use at the moment. Its last use was by a lovely old gentleman who rented it from the parish, one of those country characters who used it as a market garden and sold produce from the gate. He became elderly and ceased to cultivate it, and it's of no interest to agriculture because it's too small. So the parish mows it, keeps it in good condition, but there's a chain across the entrance on most occasions, except when it's used as that overflow car park. But it can have such a wonderful use as a parish asset. But we've not asked the parishioners, so it is the Connétable's idea to put housing on this site. Or it may be the Connétable and the Rectorat committee that wish to develop its land. But we as a parish have not been consulted on it. We've not had meetings to discuss what it might possibly be used for, or whether indeed we might just wish to keep it as it is, because it acts as a wonderful green lung. But I don't think that we should say it's useless as anything else except building land. The fact that it's next to a main road, well, what does that mean? Does that mean you can't do anything with it? We built a village green right next to a main road, and that wasn't a problem. So we can create something that we might wish to with this field next to the main road, but parishioners need to be asked, and they haven't yet been. If we were to put this back into the built-up area, then I know the Rectorat, the plans are to come forward with an application to build on it. And that means we become a conurbation, which might be a bit like the Les Quenvay Red Houses area. So you enter it, you travel along the roads, but there's buildings on all sides of you. There's a long stretch before you exit that centre. How much better to maintain that sense of openness as exists in the other parish centres, St Mary's, St Lawrence, St John's and Trinity, where you can enjoy a breathing space between buildings, where you can stand at the centre of the village and look down towards Hydrangea Avenue, and it's not just concrete and tarmac, because that's what this green space contributes to our village. It's that sense of space, that green area, that sense of openness. If our village green is heavily used, which it is, as the Connétable has said, then I hope we could find a community use for this piece of land, which would also be heavily used and beneficial to the whole community, not just the 5 occupiers of the homes that might be built on the piece of land if it was restored to built-up area. So this could absolutely add to village amenities. And I began by talking about how I've seen the village centre grow over the last 50, 60 years. And I think we've got to understand that in the next 50 years, there will be growth around our village centres, because we don't want development pepper-potted all over the parishes, and the policy is to maintain development in the village centres. And there does need to be development because we need to keep our communities vibrant. So if that development is to take place, and I think it's likely, it's important that we preserve within the village centre, and notwithstanding the fact that we've got St Juan's Bay and we've got Grebdelec Woods and Les Landes, which are great, but you need to travel to those. You need to take a car or a bike, or a long walk, but for many people who can't walk too long, too far, how important it is just to have some nice, green, restful, open space that they can easily access. And even if you're not in the space, its value as a green lung is so important in a built-up area. So, designating this piece of land as protected open space, I believe, maintains the sense that St. One's is still a rural community. It adds to the character of our parish. And indeed, instead of building on it, keep it open, because that will support the homes that currently exist in the parish by its amenity value, and it will support the future homes that I think will inevitably grow around the parish centre. Therefore, sir, I support the Minister in this, and I hope other members will see the importance of doing so. With regret, I have to oppose my own connotab. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Deputy. Does any other member wish to speak on this amendment? Deputy St Martin.
Thank you, sir, and I'll be very brief. Sir, I've scribbled down a few words during this debate. Too small for agriculture, quirky and unique. And I enjoy looking at this piece of land when I go to St One's, sir, because it's just interesting. It's a small area of grass in the middle of the built-up area, and I don't want to lose it. I'm disappointed that Constable wants to rezone it. It's too small for agriculture. That's not a good enough reason to get rid of it. And I'm looking at the overhead thinking to myself, you know what, in the future years to come, maybe we don't have a shop and a car park at the crossroads there, and all of a sudden we could connect this site that we're discussing today, that car park and the village green across the road, and have a proper real green lung in the heart of St One's. I feel parishioners in 30 or 40 years' time, sir, will thank us hugely for protecting this small area, which could be the opposite of the formal green. It could be informal, stick a couple of benches in the corners and so with wildflowers, let people enjoy the open air and the south-facing prospect of it. It's a very good place for me, and I can't support the Constable, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Deputy. Constable St Brelard.
Thank you, sir, and conscious of the time, I'm more inclined towards the Deputy in this situation. I'm aware that the developments as a result of garden grabbing or split houses behind La Petite Fosses are very, very tight. I don't know if the neighbours have been consulted on the proposals from the Rectorat, but it seems to me inappropriate to develop this particular small area of land. And I just wondered, in addition, the Constable mentioned it had been used for market gardening in the past. Perhaps allotments may be considered for the future, and I'm sure there would be people crying out to cultivate it for that. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Constable. Did anyone wish to speak on this amendment? I call upon the Constable to reply.
Thank you, sir. And I think one has the sense that perhaps the tide isn't running in my favour on this, but nevertheless, taking the Minister's comments first, I understand what he says, but it is a very small area of land, and he makes a lot of, in his speech, he made quite a bit about the fact that it's being used for overflow parking, which essentially means it's not going to, doesn't have much use as a recreational space. And I think that's slightly contradictory to his terms, to his comments. Turning to my deputy's comments, I understand what he's saying, but I have to say that in terms of green lung, we have, he talks about urbanising the whole parish, but you only have to walk 2 minutes down the road and literally you're surrounded by green fields. And frankly, I see many, many parishioners doing just that. What I don't see is them using this space. And again, I would have to say, as I said in my original speech, for people to use the space, they would have to accept that they're next door to a main road, and they have to cross the entrance of what is a relatively busy shoppers' car park. So I really cannot see them actually doing that. And also, that they will have to sit in a space that is completely overlooked on all sides, and indeed it's a relatively small space as well. we principally use this for parking cars, and that is about the only use that there is available for it. I mean, yes, we could, if this doesn't go through, we could consider, let's say, putting it out for allotments. Again, picking up on the Deputy of St Martin's comments, it's a small area. I cannot see the 6 or so shops that are in the centre of the village going. Indeed, if they did, it would be a serious disadvantage to the village itself, because we have a very large supermarket which is well used. There was a doctor's surgery, but unfortunately they're not able to open it again. There's a hairdresser's, and also there's an off licence. So I can't see that those shops at any time are going to disappear. So I can't see us ever being able to grass over the car park and turn it into a green connection to our main village green. So, and the Councillor Brallard's talked about allotments. Well, that's a possibility if we don't succeed in this proposal. So what the parish is asking is that we haven't consulted with parishioners because we don't have any specific plans to consult with parishioners. All we're asking is to retain the status as it is. We're not asking for to rezone it. It's the minister that wants to rezone it as protected open space. The parish is saying we want to retain it as it is so that we have the option of developing it. And as and when we have plans to develop it, we will then approach parishioners and obtain their views. And if they want to retain it as it is, we will do just that. But this just takes away one of our options. And this is our principal argument. We want to keep our options open and possibly use it to satisfy our demand for over 55 housing, or indeed, if parishioners want to keep it as an open space, we'll do that. So I make the amendment and ask for the appel, sir. Thank you.
Clarification, please, sir.
Point of clarification. Will you accept a request for clarification, Conatab? Will you accept a request for clarification from the Minister? Will you accept? Yes,
Thank
Minister.
you. The Conatab said in his summing up that it takes away the options. Will you accept that, irrespective of whether it's designated public open space, protected open space or not, the planning system can still, providing he makes a case, or the community makes a case, for its development, sir? So it doesn't take it away. Would he accept that's the case, sir?
No, I won't, sir, because the whole point is that taking it up a grade just simply makes the process more difficult and makes the hoops to jump through much larger. So, and this is the main purpose of doing this, is to keep our options open rather than make it more difficult for us.
Thank you, Conatab. The appel has been called for. Members are invited to return to their seats. Those joining the meeting via the Teams link may cast their votes in the chat channel. And I ask the greffier to open the voting for members in the chamber. If all members have had the opportunity of casting their votes, then I ask the greffier to close the voting.
Just to save a bit of time, so I propose we adjourn after the vote.
Thank you, Senator. And I can announce the amendment has been rejected. 11 votes pour, 28 votes contre. The adjournment was proposed. Is that seconded? Does any member wish to speak on the adjournment? No. State stand adjourned until 2:15.